Family Immortal Cultivation. Starting as a spiritual farmer, this video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 26 Promise. You have done a good job in this matter. In the face of such huge benefits, you have distinguished the priorities and distributed the profits from the mine to the family. It is a blessing for our Ling family to have you. No matter what, you will be remembered for your great merit in this matter. We who practice Taoism are all thinking about one thing, which is to seek immortality. The first step in seeking immortality is to build the foundation. I believe you also have a desire for spiritual objects for building the foundation. Ling Yanhong said eloquently. I am building the foundation alone. I am sure you know that I have not consumed too many resources of the clan. The family has been established for more than 200 years. In addition, when we opened up the Anyang County territory 4 years ago, we obtained a lot of monster materials to sell and have saved a lot of spirit stones. Now we have the help of the Zhuangshu iron ore vein. Within 20 years, the family will definitely buy a foundation building pill and give it to a clan member to take. If you hadn't discovered this Zhuangshu iron ore vein, that foundation building pill would definitely belong to Pengxing, the strongest talent of the current generation of the family. But now you have made great contributions. I can promise you that if you can enter the perfection of key training before Pengxing, I can make the decision and give you the foundation building pill that the family will buy in the future. Even if it is difficult to surpass Pengxing in cultivation and lose the foundation building pill, I can promise you that the family will give you half of the spirit stones in the future and you will pay half of the spirit stones. Within 40 years, I will find a second-rate foundation-building spiritual object for you to assist you in trying to build the foundation. Even if you don't dare to build a foundation, I can guarantee that you will be able to take over the position of the 11th uncle and become the next great elder of the family, in order to repay your kindness in reporting this small Zhuangshu iron ore vein to the family. Ling Yanhong is a legendary figure of the Ling family. He has dual spiritual roots of water and wood. At the age of 42, he broke through to the perfection of key training. 3 years later, at the age of 45, he successfully broke through the foundation building with his own strength in the original mountain of the Ling family's Yanshu County, becoming the first foundation building powerhouse since the establishment of the Ling family. Because he broke through the foundation building alone, his strength is far beyond that of the cultivators of the same level. When he followed Bailingman to open up the Huaishu County, he killed 3 foundation building monsters with his strength, and even killed the wolf monster in the middle stage of foundation building that occupied Lingxiao Mountain with a 3rd level of foundation building, opening up a 2nd level spiritual vein for the Ling family. What's more, he used his own strength to support the Ling family, a small key training family that could only rely on a foundation building family to survive in this world of immortal cultivation, and turned it into a foundation building family occupying an entire county. Ling Pengyun admired Ling Yanhong from the bottom of his heart. Such a person was not comparable to ordinary people. Just talking about the 10% death foundation building alone, I'm afraid not many people in this world of immortal cultivation dare to try. But when Ling Pengyun heard about the foundation building pill, his eyes became extremely hot. The foundation building pill was a powerful spiritual object that could increase the probability of breaking through the foundation building by 30%. If he had the help of the foundation building pill when building the foundation, he might have succeeded in building the foundation. But when he thought of his 3rd brother Ling Pengxing's strong talent, he had reached the 6th level of key training at the age of only 20, which was far beyond his cultivation. It was possible that his 3rd brother with strong talent had already entered the late stage of key training. With such a gap, how could he win? For a moment, a sense of frustration arose spontaneously. Since Ling Pengxing was found to have the dual spiritual roots of gold and wood, he has been the most dazzling new star of the Ling family. He has suppressed the glory of all the Peng generation. Even the rare thing that Ling Pengyun, who has 5 spiritual roots, has the cultivation speed of 3 spiritual roots, is not surprising among the Peng generation. It seems that there is no hope for the foundation building pill, but it is not bad to have a second-rate foundation building spiritual object. Although Ling Pengyun was unwilling in his heart, he could only comfort himself and said secretly. Ling Pengyun bowed his hands and thanked sincerely. Thank you for the promise, 3rd ancestor. It doesn't matter, this is what you deserve. Only by devoting yourself to the clan can you have better development. The family is different from the sect. What the clan members do for the family must be fed back to the clan members. Ling Yanhong said meaningfully. Grandson understands. Ling Pengyun responded. The matter of this mineral vein must not be told. Even in this small Huaishu county, it is not only our Ling family that needs this mineral vein. Like our Ling family, the other 4 foundation-building families that have just established their families in Huaishu County, especially the Yunwu Wen family, a weapon refining family in Pinggan County next to our Ling family in Anyang County, will definitely take action and spy on it if they know that there's a Zhuangshu iron vein here. Ling Yanhong changed his demeanor and said seriously. Third ancestor, please rest assured. As a member of the Ling family, I will definitely not say too much and bring disaster to the family. Ling Pengyun said solemnly. Ling Yanhong nodded lightly. I will go back to the clan to discuss with the elders of the family how to deal with this mineral vein. You go back to Qingshi Mountain first. I will come again in 2 days. Third ancestor, then there is no one stationed here, isn't it? Ling Pengyun heard this and said worriedly. The location of this mineral vein is so hidden, and my Ling family has no Zhuangshu iron ore. Apart from you and me, only the 11th uncle knows about this mineral vein. How can anyone else know about it in a short time? Besides, I will rush back within 2 days. With my strength, I am enough to deter the villains. Ling Yanhong said very domineeringly. Ling Pengyun's expression moved slightly, and he couldn't help but sigh at the domineering power brought by strength. The 2 of them left the mineral vein together, the demon python's nest, the dark river, and the Qingshi lake, and then parted. Because it was late at night, the 2 people's behavior was not noticed by the villagers of Qingshi village. Ling Pengyun watched Ling Yanhong riding the fairy crane king until his figure was difficult to see with the naked eye. He calmed down for a while and then returned to Qingshi Mountain. As soon as he entered Qingshi Mountain, Ling Pengyun went straight to the 6 acres of spiritual field on the top of Qingshi Mountain. Because of the matter of the Zhuangshu iron ore vein, he had not used spiritual rain to irrigate the spiritual plants in the 6 acres of spiritual fields for nearly 3 days. This also caused the leaves of the 2 acres of water-loving yellow jade spiritual rice to turn slightly yellow and curl, which was a sign of water shortage. The leaves of the other 4 acres of key training grass and sword star grass, which did not particularly need water, also turned slightly yellow, but not as serious as the yellow jade spiritual rice. This spiritual field really cannot do without people. Ling Pengyun looked at the degree of water shortage of the spiritual plants in the 6 acres of spiritual fields, frowned, and sighed. Then he calculated carefully. The yellow jade spiritual rice, which is seriously lacking in water, will probably need 3 days of spiritual rain to recover and continue to grow and produce rice ears. And the key training grass and sword star grass should be able to gradually recover and continue to grow normally after being watered with spiritual rain within a day. If the spiritual plants planted are as easy to take care of as those in the mortal world, we can directly pour water into these 6 acres of spiritual fields and that will be fine. It's really too difficult for us spiritual plant husbands. Ling Pengyun sighed. Spiritual fields cannot be directly irrigated like rice in the mortal world. In the mortal world, under normal circumstances, rice is planted by pouring water into the fields during the day and draining the water at night. If this kind of thing is applied to the spiritual fields, it will inevitably wash away the spiritual soil in the spiritual fields when draining. This situation is a huge loss for the spiritual fields. If you irrigate the spiritual field under the pretext of preventing the loss of spiritual soil, but irrigate during the day and do not drain at night, the roots of the spiritual plants will be soaked in water for a long time, causing root rot and affecting the growth of the spiritual plants. If you just want to moisten the spiritual field, it would be easier than using the cloud and rain technique. Moreover, the cloud and rain technique can not only moisten the spiritual plants, but also speed up their growth. If you can't solve the problem once and for all, the faster the spiritual plants grow, the harder it is. Farming is too difficult! Exclamation mark. Thanks to Rain Wolf God King for his monthly ticket. Chapter 27, Secret Meeting. Ling Pengyun perked up, pinched his hands, summoned the cloud and rain spell, and struck into the air, which transformed into a white cloud, raining down spiritual rain, and first watered the 2 acres of yellow jade spiritual rice. During the watering process, Ling Pengyun kept in mind the instruction in the Lingxiao Spiritual Plants Sutra that spiritual plants that were already short of water should not be supplemented with too much water at once. He only let the spiritual rain fall for half an incense stick of time to water the 2 acres of yellow jade spiritual rice, and then stopped. On weekdays, it takes an incense stick of time to water the water-loving yellow jade spiritual rice. The key training grass and sword star grass, which originally needed to be watered by spiritual rain for half an incense stick, were only watered for a cup of tea. After the spiritual rain was done, Ling Pengyun performed the Lingxiao ripening technique on the 6 acres of spiritual plants one by one, which needed to be performed once every 3 days. The secret method was used to condense the pure wood spiritual power to accelerate their growth. The ripening technique consumes a lot of energy. After Ling Pengyun used the ripening technique on the spiritual plants in the 6-acre spiritual field one by one, his dantian spiritual energy was almost gone. He said hello to the yellow-haired sparrow who was guarding the spiritual field diligently, pulled out more than 10 weeds that had grown in the spiritual field during the 3 days since he left, and burned them clean. Then Ling Pengyun went down the mountain and returned to the cave halfway up the mountain. The body of the blue-scaled water python, which was 10 feet long and as thick as a millstone, did not deteriorate because it was preserved by ice. There was even a lot of ice on the blue-scaled water python. After melting the ice, Ling Pengyun summoned a black iron sword and carefully dissected the body of the blue-scaled water python, which was in the middle stage of key training. Because the blue-scaled water python was good at physical fitness, the hundreds of pounds of flesh and blood on its body contained a lot of spiritual energy, which was far higher than the previous black cloud venomous snake, which was also in the middle stage of key training. Even so, the venom of the more poisonous snake in the middle stage of key training is very valuable. The overall value of the two is actually not much different. The hundreds of kilograms of snake meat of the blue-scaled water python can also be regarded as a good cultivation resource for Ling Pengyun, who is at the same level. According to Ling Pengyun's estimation, if the spiritual energy obtained by eating hundreds of kilograms of snake meat is equivalent to the effect of 1 or 2 yellow bud pills. In addition to the blood and flesh, the body of this demon python is also full of treasures. Although the snake died in the water and most of the snake blood was washed away by the water, there are still nearly 10 kilograms of snake blood left in its body. This snake blood contains pure water spiritual energy. If it is used to refine talisman ink and draw water spiritual talismans, it will definitely increase the power of water spiritual talismans. If it is sold, it may be sold for about 1 spiritual stone and 5 kilograms of snake blood. Although the snake skin and snake scales were destroyed by 99%, Ling Pengyun also found 4 palm-sized snake skins by piecing together the corpse of the demon python. With these 4 pieces of snake skin, it shouldn't be a problem to make a pair of magic boots. With these 4 pieces of water-oriented demon python skin, I'll hand them over to the refiner to make boots. Although it's hard to increase the speed, it will most likely increase the speed of gathering water spirit energy when I fight, and it can also reduce the spiritual energy consumption when I cast spells. Ling Pengyun looked at the 4 pieces of python skin spread on the ground and said with a smile. The snake bones of the demon python were also removed by Ling Pengyun. The snake bones and snake teeth are extremely hard, and their hardness is comparable to that of spiritual iron of the same level. Although they are not enough to be the main material for refining a first-level medium-grade magic weapon, they can be used as auxiliary materials, and they are also worth a few spiritual stones. Needless to say, the guts of the demon python are good materials for refining detoxification pills and strengthening pills. As for the rest of the demon python's internal organs, they were not very useful. Ling Pengyun was not willing to eat them, so he gave them all to the yellow-haired sparrow, who had been diligently guarding the spiritual insects and eating the spiritual plants in the 6-acre spiritual field on the top of the mountain. Although these internal organs were like garbage in Ling Pengyun's eyes, they were like treasures in the eyes of the yellow-haired sparrow at the 4th level of innateness, which contains spiritual energy. This also made the yellow-haired sparrow believe that following this immortal would definitely have a bright future in the future. It always landed at Ling Pengyun's feet, rubbing its head to show that it was well behaved. This move really satisfied Ling Pengyun. The yellow-haired sparrow also broke through 2 levels of cultivation in a row in the recent period of time with the help of the demon python's internal organs, and directly promoted to the 6th level of innateness. Ling Pengyun ate the stir-fried demon python flesh and blood and the green jade spiritual rice with big mouthfuls, and was very satisfied. After eating, he practiced the skills to refine the spiritual energy contained in the snake meat and spiritual rice. After refining it, he woke up and continued to cook the snake monster meat for food, and practiced a technique again to refine it. The effect of the monster python's flesh and blood was also brought to the extreme by Ling Pengyun. Lingxiao Mountain. Ling Yuanhong, who returned to the clan mountain after confirming the scale of the Zhuangshu iron ore vein from Qingshi Mountain, immediately summoned the great elder Ling Ruda, the second elder Ling Ruxin, and the fifth elder Ling Yangxi in the clan to enter the meeting hall on the top of the mountain. When everyone was present, Ling Yuanhong told the three elders that Ling Pengyun, a member of the Peng generation, had discovered the Zhuangshu iron ore vein in the Qingshi Lake next to Qingshi Mountain, and the scale extended for more than 480 feet, reaching the scale of a small ore vein. It actually extended for more than 480 feet. The great elder Ling Ruda, who had already known about the ore vein, couldn't help but exclaimed when he heard the scale of the ore vein, with a smile on his face and a smile on his face. What? A small-scale Zhuangshu iron vein? Fifth elder Ling Yangxi was shocked. This surprise was too great. She couldn't even accept that her Ling family had such an opportunity. Second elder Ling Ruxin, who had been training outside for many years and knew the cruelty of the immortal cultivation world, was also shocked, but the first thing he said was not surprise, but the safety of the vein. Yuanhong, quickly send people to guard it, so as to prevent the mine from being leaked and attracting other families to compete for it. Ling Yuanhong said with a smile. Okay, be quiet for a moment. During the time I was returning to the clan mountain from the Zhuangshu vein in Qingshi Lake, I thought countless times about how to use the method of this vein. For a family like ours that only has the inheritance of lower-level and mid-grade refining tools, and does not have the method of refining magic tools such as Zhuangshu sword and Zhuangshu shield with Zhuangshu iron as the main material, even if our family mines this small Zhuangshu iron vein by ourselves, we can only refine the raw iron ore into Zhuangshu iron and sell it. It is difficult to maximize the value of this vein. When mining, we have to run the risk of being robbed by other big families. Instead of doing this, it is better to transfer part of the benefits of the vein to the bailing sect that needs ore, and use part of the benefits of this vein in exchange for a complete set of first-level refining inheritance that is difficult to buy with spirit stones from the outside world, or even the second-level alchemy inheritance that we have longed for. We can even trade for foundation-building exercises from the bailing sect to strengthen the clan's foundation. As for the remaining iron ore in the Zhuangshu iron mine, our Ling family can also use the complete first-level refining inheritance to refine it into magical instruments and maximize the profits. It is possible that the profit will not be less than that of directly selling the ore from the entire vein. Ling Yuanhong's words touched the hearts of Ling Ruda, Ling Ruxin and Ling Yangxi. They all agreed with what Ling Yuanhong said. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 28 Conclusion. In the outside world, 1 pound of Zhuangshu iron costs 5 spirit stones. But if you use this pound of Zhuangshu iron, add a few auxiliary materials, and hand it over to the weapon refiner to refine it into a magic weapon, then the value will be multiplied. But the Ling family has no map of refining magic weapons with Zhuangshu iron. In the outside world, the 100 arts inheritances such as weapon refining and alchemy inheritance that have been circulated are at most first-level lower and middle grades. Even if there are first-level upper grade or even second-level inheritances flowing in various markets, they will be purchased by major forces first and will not be easily circulated. Even if outsiders use spirit stones to buy them, those forces will not easily sell them. This also makes the Ling family, which has just become a foundation-building clan, extremely weak. Among the Ling family, only the inheritance of spiritual plants has reached the second level, and the rest of the 100 arts are only first-level lower and middle grades that are difficult to reach the stage. At the beginning of this year, everyone discussed and planned to develop the family into an alchemy family. They spent a lot of money to buy the second-level alchemy inheritance from the Yin-Yang family, a Yunchu County alchemy family with close relations with the Ling family, but failed. Even if Ling Yuanhong, a strong man at the third level of foundation building, personally brought 10,000 spiritual stones to the Yang family's residence in Qingshi Mountain, he did not buy the second-level alchemy inheritance that was the foundation of the Yang family. This also highlights how difficult it is to find a high-level 100 arts inheritance. The foundation building skills of the same value as the second level 100 arts inheritance are naturally hard to find. The only foundation building skills that the Ling family has now, which can be practiced to perfection, were obtained by the founder of the family when he accidentally broke into a cave and were called Bishu Zhanjing. It just so happened that the 100 arts inheritance and foundation building skills that ordinary foundation building families, key training families or other forces were unwilling to sell, but the Bailing sect, which required a large amount of spiritual iron and was rich and powerful, began to sell them to the public at a marked price hundreds of years ago. Bailing sect is a large sect that gathers countless Bai practitioners, among which there are thousands of Bai practitioners. It is said that there are nearly 50 different Bai inheritances in the sect, and even rare inheritances of spiritual cooking, wine making, and pastry. In Bailing sect, the most powerful Bai is refining, and there are many refiners in the sect. Therefore, there is a great demand for spiritual iron, and even an exorbitant price is offered to buy it with Bai inheritance and foundation building skills. Of course, the spiritual iron required to exchange for these inheritances and skills is not a small amount. This also foreshadows that the Zuanshu iron ore vein that originally belonged to the Ling family will also lose most of it. After hesitating for a while, the great elder Ling Ruda agreed to this matter first. I agree to this. Instead of taking risks and only earning spirit stones from selling iron ore, it is better to exchange for some spirit stones that cannot be bought with the inheritance of the 100 arts to strengthen the foundation. With these spirit stones, my Ling family can gradually become richer and stronger. We must indeed buy a set of foundation building techniques. According to the cultivation progress of Pengxing, I am afraid that he will be the same as Yun Hong. He has reached the perfection of key training at the age of just over 40. At this age, there are still more than 10 years away from the best breakthrough in foundation building, which is enough for him to try to break through the foundation twice. As long as there is no sudden accident, this boy will definitely become the second foundation building person in my Ling family. Pengxing has dual spiritual roots of gold and wood. The family only has the Blue Sea Sutra with water attributes. If he is allowed to practice this technique after breaking through the foundation, it will definitely delay his path. Ling Yanhong saw that Ling Ruda and he thought the same thing, and the smile on his face increased. He said with a smile, "What Uncle 11 said is right. I also thought so. I plan to use this mineral vein to exchange for a foundation building technique with the gold attributes from Bailingman. First, it is for Pengxing's future path. Second, it can also strengthen the foundation and provide a better path for other Ling family members who have broken through to the foundation building stage and have gold spiritual roots in the future. Third, this gold attributed technique can be used in conjunction with the sword formation that Uncle 13 gave to the family, and it will work wonders." Afterwards, Ling Ruxin and Ling Yangxi agreed after deep thought to hand over part of the mineral vein to Bailingman in order to bring a better future to the family. Third brother, the Qingshi Mountain where the mineral vein is located is very close to Pingan County of Yanwu Wen's family. Do you want me to go there and set up a magic array? Ling Yangxi asked with a worried look. No need to be so troublesome. Let Uncle 13 go and stay for a while. Since we have pulled the Bailingman, we don't need to be afraid of Yanwu Wen's family. Ling Yanhuang waved his hand. After discussing how to use the mineral veins, the meeting ended and everyone left. Ling Yanhong, the head of the Ling clan, and Ling Ruxin, the second elder of the Ling clan, rode a fairy crane and flew out of Lingxiao Mountain, but they flew in different directions. One day later, Qingshi Mountain. Ling Pengyun, who was practicing in a cave halfway up the mountain and refining the flesh and blood of the demon python he had swallowed, heard a very familiar crane cry from the outside world. He immediately stopped practicing, dispersed a large amount of spiritual energy that had been running through his meridians for half a cycle, and hurried out of the cave, looking in the direction of the crane cry. Why is it the 13th great-grandfather? Did the clan leader say that he would come? Ling Pengyun looked at the sky and saw that the person riding the fairy crane was not Ling Yunhong, who had agreed with him to return here within 2 days, but Ruxin. He was a little confused and a little worried. But even if it wasn't Ling Yanhong who came, Ling Pengyun wouldn't dare to be rude. Ling Ruxin was not only the one with the highest seniority in the family, but also the elder of the family. There were even rumors that he was the first among the Ling family's key training cultivators, and his combat power was extremely strong. Ling Pengyun quickly climbed up to Qingshi Mountain and quietly waited for Ling Ruxin, who was riding a fairy crane in the distance. After a while, When Ling Ruxin rode the fairy crane and landed on the top of Qingshi Mountain and jumped off the crane, Ling Pengyun hurried forward and expressed his concerns. 13th great-grandfather, the third ancestor has an appointment with me. Why did you come this time? What happened? Ling Ruxin looked at Ling Pengyun, who had discovered the mineral vein in front of him and did not take it privately, but informed the family. He was extremely satisfied. In response to Ling Pengyun's inquiry, he rarely spoke dozens of words in one breath, and his tone was also very gentle, not as cold as usual. The clan leader is not in trouble. One day ago, the clan leader and I discussed how to deal with the mineral vein you discovered. The final arrangement for this mineral vein is to hand over a portion of the ore to Bailingman in exchange for some inheritance of Baiyan skills. Now the clan leader is on his way to Bailingman. Therefore, I am the one who comes to take charge of the mineral vein. Part of the mineral vein will be handed over to Bailingman. Ling Pengyun said in surprise. The mineral vein will eventually be mined out, and the inheritance of Baiyi is the real means to keep the family rich. The vision needs to be broadened, and not limited to one place. Ling Ruxin preached. Ling Pengyun was not stupid. After hearing this advice, he immediately understood and bowed his hands to thank him respectfully. Great-grandson, I have learned your lesson. Thanks, the monthly ticket of time is up. It's just a mistake. Chapter 29, Earthly Evil Sword Formation. Ling Ruxin nodded slightly, and then asked, how is the strength of your spiritual sense? When I spread my spiritual sense with all my strength, it can cover a distance of 65 meters around me. Ling Pengyun's expression slightly changed when Ling Ruxin asked about the strength of his spiritual sense. He immediately thought of the time when he left the family, when Ling Ruxin told him that because of his strong spiritual sense, he would be given an opportunity, so he told the truth. Hearing this, Ling Ruxin looked slightly happy and spoke carefully. Yes, this level of spiritual power is much stronger than when I was at the 5th level of key training. I'm afraid that when your cultivation base is raised to the 6th level, your spiritual power will be comparable to that of a cultivator in the late stage of key training. When I promised you the opportunity, I planned to teach you the sword formation that I knew. That sword formation is called the Earthly Evil Sword Formation. There are two difficulties in using this sword formation. The first is that it requires a very high level of spiritual power from the cultivator. Ordinary cultivators who have not entered the late stage of key training simply cannot control multiple flying swords to attack at the same time, let alone control multiple flying swords to form a sword formation and attack at the same time. The second is that the sword tactics for forming a sword formation are extremely difficult to comprehend. Without the sword tactics, even if you can control multiple flying swords at the same time with your spiritual power, you don't have a soul and it's difficult to form a real sword formation. Your consciousness is now close to the minimum requirement for practicing this sword formation. You have also made great contributions to the family this time. I will teach you the method of comprehending this sword formula first. As for the method of controlling the sword formation, I will teach you after you have the talent to comprehend this sword formula. However, after receiving my sword formula, no matter whether you can practice it or not, you must uphold my lifelong idea of protecting the family. Protect the family for my whole life? While speaking, Ling Ruxin took out a book from the storage bag on his waist and handed it to Ling Pengyun. Ling Pengyun was ecstatic. This was the core sword formula of the sword formation. Once he comprehended it, he would master a powerful attack method. Strengthening strength is what any cultivator wants. He did not hesitate at all. Long before, he had the heart to protect the family. He and the family have long been one and inseparable. Most family cultivators are like this. Even if there is no sword formation given by my great-grandfather, my great-grandson will definitely protect the clan for his whole life. This is my duty as a member of the Ling clan. Ling Pengyun said solemnly, and then he took the sword formula handed over. Although Ling Ruxin did not speak, a rare smile appeared on his cold face, which was enough to show his mood at the moment. Take me to the Zhuanshu Iron Vein in Qingshi Lake. Ling Pengyun's mind had long drifted to the sky, imagining himself turning into a generation of sword immortals, controlling the Sanyang sword formation, and fighting against enemies of higher levels. Hearing Ling Ruxin's call, he recovered and led Ling Ruxin to avoid the eyes of the villagers of Qingshi village and sneak into the Zhuanshu Vein in the dark river of Qingshi Lake. Avoiding the eyes of the villagers of Qingshi village was also to prevent those villagers from being suspicious. In the past, The immortal Ling Pengyun was seen by the villagers of Qingshi village as secluded every day and rarely coming out of the mountain. Now he often sneaks into Qingshi Lake, which will definitely make the villagers of Qingshi village suspicious. If such unusual movements are seen by spies from other families hidden among the villagers of Qingshi village, and the unusual movements are reported to the outside world, it will be a big deal. It is very likely that there are spies in the Ling family. Even the monks and the Ling family may be scums bought by other families. When Ling Pengyun brought Ling Ruxin into the mineral vein in the dark river of Qingshi Lake, Ling Ruxin told him to comprehend the sword tactics well, and then called Ling Pengyun back. He himself sat in the mineral vein. Not long after, when Ling Pengyun quietly returned to the cave in Qingshi Mountain, he quickly sat cross-legged on the ground and flipped through the sword tactics book given by Ling Ruxin. At the beginning, this book briefly describes the information of the earthly evil sword formation. The earthly evil sword formation is a sword formation created by the 72 earthly evil stars in the sky. With full power, 72 flying swords can be activated to form an earthly evil sword formation to attack the enemy. According to the records in the classics, with the consciousness of the key training realm, up to 9 flying swords can be activated to form a small earthly evil sword formation. The consciousness of the foundation building realm can activate up to 36 flying swords to form a medium-sized earthly evil sword formation. Only when the cultivation reaches the perfection of the golden core can the earthly evil sword formation of the full victory stage be displayed, combining 72 flying swords to form a huge sword formation, enough to fight against a powerful Yin-Yang. And this sword formation is also divided into 9 layers, with 3 layers each for key training, foundation building, and golden core. I don't know what kind of person created such a powerful sword formation, it's really amazing. Ling Pengyun just simply saw that the golden core perfection realm can combine 72 flying swords to cross the level and compete with a powerful Yin-Yang realm for 1 or 2 moves, and he was very excited. He didn't need to think too much to understand how powerful this earthly evil sword formation is. This sword art classic does not record who created this earthly evil sword formation. It's a pity that the 13th great-grandfather recorded in this book that the sword formation he got was incomplete, with only the first 4 layers of sword techniques. He could only activate the 12 flying swords to gather the sword formation. Ling Pengyun sighed helplessly. But it's true. If my Ling family had the full set of sword techniques for the earthly evil sword formation, I'm afraid I wouldn't be able to protect the earthly evil sword formation. I'm afraid I would face the disaster of extinction because of this sword formation. An innocent man is guilty of possessing a treasure. As the most powerful sword cultivation secret technique in the world, the sword formation is naturally sought after by the world. Even if you are not a sword cultivator, you can exert more than 80% of the power of this sword formation to achieve the effect of fighting against enemies of higher levels. There are only a few words about the introduction of the earthly evil sword formation, and then it is the method of practicing the earthly evil sword technique. Ling Pengyun just looked through the earthly evil sword technique carefully and felt a headache. It would be difficult to comprehend this sword technique. It's so obscure and difficult to understand. Despite this, Ling Pengyun did not intend to give up comprehending the sword tactics. This sword formation can increase his combat power by several times, achieving the effect of fighting against enemies of higher levels. Looking at the sword tactics in his hand, Ling Pengyun thought of something. According to the 13th great-grandfather, to comprehend this sword tactics, one needs a strong spiritual consciousness. From this point of view, it seems that the spiritual consciousness of the third brother is far beyond that of ordinary people, and his comprehension is also excellent, otherwise it would be difficult for him to fully master this earthly sword formation a few years ago when he was still at the 5th or 6th level of key training. Ling Pengyun muttered to himself, "My advantages in comprehension and spiritual awareness are not that great in front of my third brother. The only thing I can rely on, which makes me stronger than my third brother, is probably the nameless Taoist scripture in my sea of consciousness and my excellent innate spiritual plant, the thorny vine. With these 2 advantages, I shouldn't be left too far behind by my third brother when I reach the key training realm." The thorny vine can be his reliance, in addition to the fact that it can be transformed into wooden armor to protect Ling Pengyun and assist in battle. It also has another advantage. After the spiritual plant husband's innate spiritual plant breaks through the realm, it will feed back a large amount of spiritual power to the owner's body. Chapter 30 Qingshi Village Harvest Banquet. When Ling Pengyun was 14 years old, He used the thorn vines to feed back his spiritual energy from the innate level to the key training level, and broke through from the third level to the fourth level. The thorn vine that Ling Ruda carefully selected and gave to Ling Pengyun had good qualifications. It was no problem for Ling Pengyun to advance to the first level upper grade realm within 100 years. Later, Ling Pengyun poured a mouthful of yin-yang Taichu into its body, which greatly improved its qualifications. Ling Pengyun had a premonition that within 2 years, his thorn vine would surely break through again under his spiritual power and advance to the first level middle grade. At that time, Ling Pengyun, as the owner, would naturally receive the spiritual power of the thorn vines again and break through a level of cultivation. With some confidence, Ling Pengyun also had some fighting spirit in his heart. He did not want to be stronger than Ling Penxing, who had 2 spiritual roots, but only wanted to catch up with him and not fall too far behind. At the same time, he also admired Ling Penxing, who had dual spiritual roots. Third brother has excellent talent and has always practiced hard, rarely played. How can I waste too much time with my talent? With a sigh, Ling Pengyun put aside the chaos in his mind and focused his mind on the sword tactics in his hand again. After memorizing the sword tactics practice method, Ling Pengyun sat down and closed his eyes to comprehend the sword tactics. Every day after that, in addition to absorbing the power of the early sun in the morning, watering the spiritual rain, performing the ripening technique once every 3 days, practicing, comprehending spells, comprehending Lingxiao's ripening technique, warming the thorny wood vines to recover from injuries, and absorbing the power of the moon at night, Ling Pengyun also had to comprehend the sword tactics. This also made his daily schedule full and his time was extremely tight. It happened that during this period, the rice in Qingshi village was also ripe, and Ling Pengyun did not need to go to water the spiritual rain and show his grace. During the days when Ling Pengyun was busy with a mine, the thousands of acres of rice planted by more than 3,000 villagers in Qingshi village were harvested with their joint efforts. On the afternoon of the day when the harvest was completed, all the villagers of Qingshi village who had just harvested rice from the fields were summoned by the village chief Ling Dong to the outside of the simple ancestral hall in the center of Qingshi village. Ling Dong stood on a step and said loudly to the surrounding villagers with a happy face, "My fellow villagers, today is a big happy event for our Qingshi village. It is the first year we moved here and the first time we harvested rice. Today is worth commemorating. I summoned you here because I plan to discuss with you and set today as the harvest festival of our Qingshi village and regard it as a unique festival of our Qingshi village. And every time we have this harvest festival, we all get together, set up hundreds of tables, and celebrate together. What do you think? Today is a happy day." Every family in Qingshi village harvested thousands of kilograms of rice and went home. In addition, the common people of the Ling family were already very cohesive, and now when they heard Ling Dong's proposal, they all agreed. Even if some stingy people were unwilling to jointly contribute funds to hold a harvest feast, they did not dare to offend everyone and could only agree reluctantly. Ling Dong, who was sitting in the main seat, heard the words of agreement from the surrounding people, and the smile on his face became even brighter. In order to strengthen his appeal as the village chief, he released a piece of good news. "Everyone, I and the hundreds of Lingxiao guards in the village have been preparing for this day for nearly a month. We have hunted nearly 100 wild beasts and obtained more than 10,000 kilograms of wild beast meat. With the help of the Immortal and Qingshi Mountain, we used ice to freeze it for safety. Now the 10,000 kilograms of wild beast meat is still very tender. Tonight's harvest banquet, these 10,000 kilograms of wild beast meat, everyone will share it. The women in the village who are good at cooking will have to work harder. Men like me, don't be idle either. We will take care of setting the table and cleaning these small sundries. As for the rice and other vegetables in tonight's harvest banquet, we will jointly contribute. Do you think it's okay?" As soon as these words came out, the emotions of the villagers in Qingshi village were pushed to the extreme. The flesh and blood of wild beasts are valuable things in the eyes of mortals without martial arts. It is considered good to be able to eat one meal every 3 days. Today, the village was willing to give away 10,000 caddies of wild animal meat for the banquet, which made many villagers extremely satisfied with the young village chief Ling Dong. As for how much the rice and vegetables in the harvest banquet were worth, I'm afraid they were not even half as expensive as the wild animal meat in the banquet. Village chief is wise. Many villagers in Qingshi village cheered. Even those stingy villagers were the same. They were already smiling from ear to ear, and they had already thought about eating meat in the evening. At night, with the joint efforts of more than 3,000 villagers in Qingshi village, the banquet was held very smoothly. Hundreds of large tables were set up on a flat land in the village, and each table had 18 large dishes. This meal was very delicious. More than 3,000 villagers ate meat and drank wine, cheering for the joy brought by this year's harvest. This sleepless night also allowed the villagers of Qingshi village to vent their resentment of being forcibly dispatched by their families to open up wasteland in this barren land. Happy days always pass quickly. After the harvest feast, the villagers of Qingshi village started hard work again on the second day, such as burning the rice stalks cut from the fields in the fields, drying the rice, and other trivial matters. Afterwards, the rice of this year was exposed to the sun for 5 consecutive days, and the grand rice drying event in Qingshi village ended. The next day, Ling Dong, the clan leader, led the Lingxiao guards, escorted dozens of horse-drawn carriages loaded with nearly 100,000 kilograms of rice, and hundreds of men, and left the village. The huge convoy drove along the newly built road towards Xiazi town. More than 10 days later, the convoy selling rice returned to Qingshi village. This time, the convoy brought back a lot of gold and silver, as well as a large number of clothes to survive the cold winter. However, most of the gold and silver obtained from selling rice were used to buy young cattle and sheep, fish fry, fruit tree seedlings, vegetable seeds, etc. Young cattle and sheep are raised, and then slaughtered when they grow up to meet the daily meat needs of the villagers in Qingshi village. Fish fry are placed in Qingshi Lake to reproduce on their own, increasing the number of fish in Qingshi Lake. Fruit tree saplings increase the income of Qingshi village. Vegetable seeds are for planting for daily food. As for next year's rice seeds, they will be bought in the spring of next year. It is too early to buy them now. Qingshi village, including the mortals of the entire Ling family territory, adopts a one-year form. After the rice matures at the autumnal equinox, the rice fields are left empty to allow the fertilizer to grow in the fields, increase the nutrients in the soil next year, and make the rice harvest next year better. For a period of time afterwards, the villagers of Qingshi village were either expanding the development of rice fields, or repairing houses, planting fruit trees and other trivial matters. Thanks, Sumang Angel, for the 500-point reward. Thanks, ask for the monthly ticket. Chapter 31. Winter is coming. The beginning of winter. The temperature dropped, and the villagers of Qingshi village also burned the charcoal they prepared during the summer farming off-season. Except for going out to work in the vegetable fields sometimes, these villagers stayed at home to keep warm. This special time also made the young couples in Qingshi village, who had nothing to do, indulge in carnal desires all day long to kill time, and at the same time, it was inevitable that many small lives were bred. The spiritual plants planted in the 6 acres of spiritual fields in Qingshi Mountain also matured one after another during this period in the biting cold wind. On the top of a Qingshi Mountain, 1 grain, 2 grains, 43 grains. Ling Pengyun squatted beside the 2 acres of yellow jade spiritual rice, squinting his eyes, and carefully counted the number of spiritual rice grains on each ear of yellow jade spiritual rice. Ling Pengyun selected the ears of 10 yellow jade spiritual rice plants from the 2 acres of yellow jade spiritual rice and counted them. He found that there were at least 40 full spiritual grains on the 20 ears of yellow jade spiritual rice. Normally, the number of grains in a yellow jade spiritual rice ear is only about 30. Only when the yield increases can the number of spiritual rice in the ear increase. The number of spiritual grains on each ear of rice has increased by about 30%, which also makes Ling Pengyun smile. These 2 acres of yellow jade spiritual rice, after removing the rice husk, each acre is worth 900 kilograms of spiritual rice. I'm afraid it won't run away. After the end of the year, when the elders of the clan come to harvest these spiritual rice, I can get the spiritual rice dividend. When the time comes, I will sell the spiritual rice dividend and buy a few more spiritual fruits to enhance my cultivation progress. Thinking of the spiritual grain dividend, Ling Pengyun inevitably thought of the Zuanshu iron ore vein dividend. Although the ore vein will be sold to Bailingman by the family at the expense of part of the profits, his share of the dividend should not run away. If the clan breaches the contract, this dishonesty hat will be worn on the Ling family for the rest of their lives. In the future, I'm afraid that not many clansmen will dare to trust the family. Because of this little bit of benefit, the Ling family will also fall apart and distrust each other. It is possible that after 100 years, there will be no Ling family in the world of immortal cultivation, but a group of independent cultivators with the surname Ling will appear. According to what the third ancestor said, the mine can mine at least 100,000 kilograms of Zhuangshu iron ore. According to the quenching ratio of ore to Zhuangshu iron of 10:1, we should be able to get nearly 8,000 to 9,000 kilograms of Zhuangshu iron in the end, which is worth 40,000 to 50,000 spiritual stones. I can get 10%, and 4,000 spiritual stones should be available, but if I want to get all these 4,000 spiritual stones, I'm afraid it will take a long time. Ling Pengyun calculated and muttered to himself. Mining a mine is not something that can be done overnight. The spiritual iron ore is extremely hard and cannot be mined by mortals. Only by recruiting cultivators can the spiritual iron ore be mined. It is common in the world of immortal cultivation that a small spiritual iron mine takes hundreds of years to mine. If calculated this way, the 4,000 spiritual stones Ling Pengyun received will be divided into 100 years, 40 spiritual stones per year. Calculated this way, I want to rely on the dividends of this vein and invest with the family to buy a second-rate foundation-building spiritual object before I turn 60. I'm afraid it's impossible. I need to think of other ways to earn spiritual stones. Ling Pengyun secretly thought. The transaction price of a second-rate foundation-building spiritual object on the market is at least 7,000 or 8,000 spiritual stones. Ling Pengyun and the family will jointly pay half, which means that both sides will get at least 4,000 spiritual stones. It's too dangerous to earn spiritual stones by hunting monsters. I might die in the mouth of a monster before I'm 60. It's safer to earn spiritual stones by being a spiritual plant husband. According to the spiritual grain harvest I can earn from spiritual plant husbands every year, I can earn about 30 spiritual stones. Add to that the 40 spiritual stones I get from the mineral veins every year. It's still a long way to get 4,000 spiritual stones before I'm 60. I have to speed up the improvement of the spiritual plant grade, so that I can be valued by the family and have the family send me to manage more spiritual veins in the spiritual field. I can also earn more spiritual stones. With this idea, Ling Pengyun also increased the spiritual power of the thorn vines for a period of time, so that it can recover the injuries caused by the more and poisonous snake as soon as possible, and then improve the thorn vines and enter the middle stage of key training. If a spiritual plant husband wants to upgrade his grade, there are two hard requirements. One is that the spiritual plant's secret technique reaches the corresponding level, and the other is that the natal spiritual plant reaches the corresponding level. If Ling Pengyun wants to advance to the first level middle grade spiritual plant husband, he needs to comprehend the Lingxiao ripening technique to the second level, and his life spiritual plant thorn vines will enter the middle stage of key training. At the end of the year, winter has been here for more than a month. The biting cold wind blew over the falling snow, and a thick layer of snow covered the ground. With the temperature dropping, the villagers of Qingshi village went out less often. Except for a few cold-resistant vegetables, all the vegetables in the vegetable garden had been picked, so there was no need to go out to water the vegetable garden frequently. And the only activity in winter, making babies, was getting more and more intense. The villagers of Qingshi village were very enthusiastic about making babies. If one of the children born had spiritual roots, they would have a worry-free life and be prosperous and wealthy. On the day of winter solstice, Ling Ruguo, who is already 110 years old, braved the flying snow and rode a fairy crane to the top of Qingshi Mountain. Ling Pengyun, wearing Ling's loose Taoist robe with fluffy winter fur, had already heard the crane's cry and waited on the top of the mountain. He looked at Ling Ruguo's face and saw that the dead air on his face was even stronger, and his aura had completely fallen from the late stage of key training to the middle stage of key training. He couldn't help but feel a little depressed. I'm afraid my great-grandfather's days are numbered. Ling Ruguo, who is already 110 years old, now relied on his own cultivation to support his life. Once his cultivation was lost, he would not be able to live for many days. Pengyun, you are not unworthy of your title of spiritual plant husband. The spiritual plants managed by Peng Chang and others who went out with you to guard the spiritual veins of the family will take nearly a month to mature. Ling Ruguo jumped from the back of the fairy crane to the ground and saw that the three kinds of spiritual plants in the 6-acre spiritual field of Qingshi Mountain were all mature, and these spiritual plants were surrounded by spiritual energy. He didn't need to guess too much. He knew that these spiritual plants were probably mature for a long time, and his expression on his face was much better, and he said with a smile. Ling Pengyun frowned, but he was not complacent, but worried, and said, "Third great-grandfather, Your cultivation has regressed to the middle stage of key training. Now it is winter, why are you still the one harvesting the spiritual plants? If you encounter danger, then... Ling Ruguo also knew Ling Pengyun's good intentions, and said kindly. The family is short of manpower. None of the family members who can leave the family have the cultivation of the late stage of key training. Those guys in the middle stage of key training are not as strong as me. It just so happens that I also plan to come and see my disappointing grandson Ling Dong before the new year, so I took this job. Ling Pengyun sighed helplessly when he heard it. There are not many people and the territory is large. Although this also makes the family treat the members very well, from the monthly salary of the members, we can see how the Ling family members are treated. But the defect of insufficient manpower is often a disadvantage. Thanks, Zhuji Qingfang's monthly ticket. Chapter 32 Parental Love. It would be great if the family could find a few more people with spiritual roots among the mortals on January 1st next year when spiritual roots are awakened. Ling Pengyun thought to himself. Ling Ruguo took out a bulging storage bag from his arms, summoned several spiritual objects from it and put them on the ground, and said carefully. Pengyun, the new year is approaching, and it is difficult for you and other clan members who are stationed outside the family to guard the spiritual vein to return to the clan mountain to reunite with your families. It just so happens that recently, the green peach trees planted in Lingxiao Mountain, the original clan mountain of my Ling family in Yunqiu County, have produced a lot of spiritual peaches. The clan center felt guilty, so they took out nearly half of the green peaches harvested this time to compensate you and other clan members who are stationed outside the clan mountain to guard the spiritual vein. Your cultivation has reached the middle stage of key training, and you can get 3 first-grade medium-quality green peaches. The rest are your salary for the next 6 months. 60 spirit stones, 6 key training pills, 120 kilograms of green jade spiritual rice, and 12 yellow bud pills. These 100 spirit stones and 6 first-grade medium-quality green peaches were sent back to the clan mountain by your parents in Yunqiu Market in Yunqiu County, and asked the family to pass them on to you. These 3 small bags contain the seeds of 3 spiritual plants, key training grass, yellow jade spiritual rice, and sword star grass. As for these 2 explosive poison beads and 6 detoxification pills, they were made by your 8th and 10th ancestors based on the 2 bottles of Moan venomous snake venom and 6 detoxification pills you gave me half a year ago. There is 1 explosive poison bead of the first level lower and middle grade, and 3 detoxification pills of the first level lower and middle grade. Ling Pengyun already knew that every year the clan would compensate the clan members who worked for the family and could not return to the clan mountain to reunite with their families during the new year in the form of green silk spiritual peaches. This can be said to be a fine tradition of the Ling family, which is based on spiritual plants. However, he did not feel any joy for the many spiritual stones sent by his parents, but rather felt a little sad. Although his father Ling Xiaoshan was the owner of the family's Lingxiao miscellaneous goods hall in Yunshifang City, he could get a commission based on the spiritual objects sold, but the commission was not much, and his cultivation was only in the middle stage of key training. The offerings he received were the same as his current offerings, or even worse than his. He had no key training pills and huogaya pills, but only 10 spiritual stones and 20 kilograms of green jade spiritual rice. His mother Yang Qiuyan was only in the early stage of key training, and the monthly offerings she made when she went out to work were only 4 spiritual stones and 20 kilograms of yellow jade spiritual rice. The 100 spiritual stones given by his parents accounted for as much as 60% of their annual offerings. This also indicates that Ling Xiaoshan and Yang Qiuyan, as cultivators, did not have many spiritual stones in their hands, and they were afraid that they did not have elixirs to help them in their daily cultivation, so their progress in cultivation must be slow. Undoubtedly, Ling Xiaoshan and Yang Qiuyan planned to reduce their own resources and join forces to help Ling Pengyun achieve enlightenment. Sacrifice yourself to achieve one person. Dad, Mom. Ling Pengyun's mind flashed with the faces of his parents, and he missed them very much. Although he was reincarnated as a human and had gone through 2 lives, his parents in this world treated him very well, and he respected them very much. Ling Ruguo, who was standing by, saw the change in Ling Pengyun's expression and immediately knew why. He didn't say much, but waited by the side until Ling Pengyun's mood returned to normal. Then he called Ling Pengyun to harvest a mature topaz spiritual rice, key training grass, and sword star grass in the 6-acre spiritual field on the top of Qingshi Mountain. Although topaz spiritual rice is rice, Due to the tempering of spiritual energy, the rice stalks have long been as hard as steel in the mortal world. Therefore, Ling Pengyun and Ling Ruguo, who were harvesting topaz spiritual rice, used the entry-level spiritual sickle to cut the topaz spiritual rice. This spiritual sickle is extremely sharp, and the blade is extremely long, which makes it very convenient to cut the rice stalks. After harvesting all the yellow jade spiritual rice in the 2 mu of spiritual field, the two used the small magic of spiritual shock to shake the spiritual rice on the rice ears to the ground, and then shook off the rice husks. Each grain of spiritual rice, like yellow jade, appeared. As for the 2 spiritual plants, key training grass and sword star grass, they were directly pulled up by the roots. However, in the process of pulling them up, Ling Pengyun and Ling Ruguo would first use spiritual hose to dig the soil around the 2 spiritual plants to loosen the soil. Then they carefully used their hands to pry open the loose spiritual soil to avoid damaging the roots of the 2 spiritual plants when pulling them up. For spiritual plants such as key training grass and sword star grass, even the roots contain spiritual energy. If they are damaged, the medicinal properties will be damaged. This kind of work takes a very long time, and it took the 2 of them half a day to finish it. Ling Ruguo wiped the sweat from his forehead, took out a storage bag from his arms, summoned 400 jade boxes, and together with Ling Pengyun, put the 400 sword star grass and key training grass harvested from the 4 mu of spiritual field into the jade boxes. This jade box is not an ordinary thing. It is called a soul-locking jade box. It is made of a kind of soul-locking jade that can isolate the leakage of spiritual energy. Putting spiritual plants in this jade box can reduce the loss of spiritual energy of spiritual plants. Medicine bottles for elixirs are also mostly made of this soul-locking jade. This soul-locking jade is very cheap. 1 spiritual stone can buy more than 10 kilograms, which has led to its widespread promotion in the world of immortal cultivation. After the 400 sword star grass and key training grass were put into the jade box, Ling Ruguo put all the jade boxes back into the storage bag in his hand, waved his hand and cast a small spell weight measurement on the 2 piles of topaz-like topaz spiritual rice in front of him, and the smile on his face became even brighter. Pengyun, the 6 mu of spiritual plants you managed this time are all good. The medicinal effects of key training grass and sword star grass are at least 10% stronger than ordinary ones. Especially the 2 mu of yellow jade spiritual rice, which yielded 932 caddies and 953 caddies respectively. According to the welfare of the spiritual plant husband in the clan, you can get 10% of the spiritual rice you manage, which is 93 caddies and 95 caddies, a total of 188 caddies. This is your 188 caddies of yellow jade spiritual rice. Do you plan to sell it to the clan or keep it for yourself? If you sell it to the clan can buy it at the market price of 1 spiritual stone for 5 caddies, and you won't suffer a loss. Ling Ruguo asked with a kind smile. The price of the spiritual rice purchased by the clan was fair, so Ling Pengyun naturally had no reason to refuse. 3rd great-grandfather, I will sell these spiritual rice to the family. 188 caddies of spiritual rice will be calculated as 190 caddies, a total of 38 spiritual stones. As for these 2 acres of rice stalks, you need them. The herd of mountain opening cattle domesticated by the family likes to eat these rice stalks very much. Ling Ruguo carefully counted, took out 38 spiritual stones from the storage bag on his waist and handed them to Ling Pengyun, and then asked. Ling Pengyun accepted the spiritual stones and bowed. Thank you, 3rd great-grandfather, these rice stalks are useless to me. 3rd great-grandfather, you can take them back to the family and raise those mountain opening cattle. The mountain opening cattle are a kind of spiritual beast raised by the Ling family. This cattle is extremely powerful and has thick skin and flesh. Every year, the Ling family transports various grades of spiritual rice to the Huaishu market for sale, relying on this cattle to pull the spiritual rice over a long distance of thousands of miles. It's okay, Pengyun, it's getting late. I'll stay at Lingdong's place tonight and leave tomorrow morning. Ling Ruguo knew that Ling Pengyun was thanking him for giving him a few more kilograms of spiritual rice, but he didn't care and waved his hand. After saying this, Ling Ruguo put the 2 piles of yellow jade spiritual rice stalks on the ground into a specially prepared storage bag. Okay. Ling Pengyun nodded. Chapter 33 Testing Spiritual Roots. After watching Ling Ruguo riding the fairy crane to leave Qingshi Mountain and land in a courtyard of a house in the central area of Qingshi village, he retracted his gaze. Ling Pengyun looked at the 3 small bags of spiritual plant seeds in his hand and said with longing, "Now that the seeds for the 2nd year are ready and the spiritual fields are empty, I will directly plant these seeds given by the family in the soil, so that they can absorb more spiritual energy to nourish themselves during the planting period, so that when the harvest comes at the end of next year, the harvest will be more." Counting the 198 spiritual stones I got this time, I now have 201 spiritual stones in my storage bag. After this busy farming season, I should go to the Yunwu market to buy a flying magic weapon. The 187 kilograms of yellow jade spiritual rice I got through the spiritual plant husband this year are enough to sell for 38 spiritual stones. This was far beyond his expectations, and this was only the share of the yellow jade spiritual rice that had been planted in the spiritual field for only 11 months. If the yellow jade spiritual rice stayed in the spiritual soil for 12 months, it was possible that the 2 acres of yellow jade spiritual rice would produce 1,000 kilograms of spiritual rice per acre next year. By then, he could get 200 kilograms of yellow jade spiritual rice. It's getting dark today. If we delay for a while, I'm afraid it will be night. Winter nights are often the coldest. Although the cultivators attributed their great power to themselves, Ling Pengyun was only a key training cultivator. His body had not undergone any qualitative changes, and he would still feel cold due to the cold weather. Of course, he could also mobilize his spiritual power to circulate in his meridians to achieve the effect of heating. Now he was doing so, otherwise he would not be able to bear it in this winter. Not to mention the Ling Ruguo who was riding on the fairy crane in the sky, facing the cold wind and had a short lifespan. Ling Pengyun took the spiritual hoe that he had used to loosen the soil but had not put back into the storage bag, and kept plowing small pits in the 6-acre spiritual field, while burying spiritual seeds in the pits. This plowing of the pits was not difficult, but it was extremely time-consuming. When plowing the small pits, Ling Pengyun also injected spiritual power into the spiritual hoe and turned on the vibration of the spiritual hoe to prevent the sharp blade of the spiritual hoe from damaging the spiritual soil in the spiritual field. It was precisely because of this that it took several hours to plow the soil. It was not until the hour of Su that it ended. When planting seeds in the middle, night fell, and Ling Pengyun stopped for a while to absorb the power of the moon. Afterwards, Ling Pengyun applied spiritual rain 3 times to moisten the 3 kinds of spiritual seeds that had just entered the spiritual soil in the 6-acre spiritual field, so as to stimulate them to accelerate germination. It was already midnight when the spiritual rain was finished. After harvesting the spiritual plants and then planting the seeds, Ling Pengyun was a little tired, so he didn't stay any longer and returned to the cave halfway up the mountain. As soon as Ling Pengyun entered the cave, he sat cross-legged on the futon placed on the ground, practicing his skills, refining the remaining Huogayadan medicinal power in his body, and improving his cultivation. In this cave, in addition to Ling Pengyun, there was also the yellow-haired sparrow, but it was sleeping in a bird's nest at this time. As early as the beginning of winter, the yellow-haired sparrow fell into hibernation and fell asleep due to physical reasons. Fortunately, it was not only the yellow-haired sparrow, but also the insects outside. As soon as winter came, they did not eat the spiritual plants planted on the top of the mountain. Obviously, they also fell into deep sleep in the nest. The next morning, Ling Ruguo, who had talked with his grandson all night, came to Qingshi Mountain as promised. After telling Ling Pengyun, he rode a fairy crane to the next stop. In the center of Qingshi village, in a house courtyard, Ling Dong looked at the figure of the old man riding a crane in the sky, his expression full of longing. He was not a fledgling, and he also saw that his grandfather Ling Ruguo would not live long. "Grandfather, I am indeed not young anymore, and it is time for me to find a wife," Ling Dong said to himself. Spiritual roots, the clan mountain. Ling Dong looked yearning, but his eyes were full of reluctance. When he talked with Ling Ruguo all night, Ling Ruguo said the most that he wanted him to marry a wife, give birth to a child with spiritual roots as soon as possible, and let his lineage return to the clan mountain. Another 3 days passed. The injury of Ling Pengyun's life spirit plant thorn vine, due to the Moan poisonous snake incident, was also completely restored by Ling Pengyun's daily spiritual power. From today on, he can also use spiritual power to nourish the thorn vine attached to his chest to improve his cultivation. Time flies, January 1st of the next year. This day is the first day of the year, and it is also the time for the ordinary members of the Ling family to test their spiritual roots. On this day, The Ling family monks stationed on various spiritual veins will go down to the villages built on the spiritual veins to test the spiritual roots of children aged 8 to 10 in these villages. Many people gathered outside the Qingshi ancestral hall early in the morning. Most of them were spectators, and there were also many parents who brought their children to test their spiritual roots. Everyone chattered and discussed with each other who was most likely to test their spiritual roots this time. Dong! The sound of a bronze bell came from the ancestral hall. Once the sound of the bronze bell rang, no one said anything, and the surroundings returned to silence. And those children of the right age, under the guidance of their parents, lined up in a long line outside the ancestral hall. The village chief Ling Dong, who had been standing at the door of the ancestral hall, saw that all the children in the village who were testing their spiritual roots had arrived, pushed open the door of the ancestral hall, and spoke to everyone. It's time for the children who are going to test their spiritual roots this year. Enter the ancestral hall one by one. The first child in the long queue curiously walked into the ancestral hall through the gate. Seeing a small table in the ancestral hall, and a young man with extraordinary temperament sitting in front of the small table, the child asked innocently, "Are you the immortal who protects our Qingshi village?" This young man was naturally Ling Pengyun, who was stationed in Qingshi Mountain all year round. Ling Pengyun saw the innocent look of the child in front of him, who was wrapped tightly because of the extremely cold temperature in the cold winter, and smiled and answered, "Yes, put one hand on this small table." The child's face lit up when he heard the answer. According to his father, although the guardian immortal of the village in front of him was not very old, his strength was indeed very powerful. He once slaughtered a giant python 3 meters long and as thick as a millstone. He honestly put his tender right hand on the small table. During this period, he kept looking at Ling Pengyun to see if there was anything special about him. Ling Pengyun didn't care about the child's gaze. He put his hand on the child's right arm and cast a small spell bone touching age measurement. After checking that the child was indeed between 8 and 10 years old, Ling Pengyun picked up the pure black, fist-sized spiritual stone on the small table, injected spiritual power into it, and then put it on the child's right hand. If the child has spiritual roots, then the spiritual stone will flash. As for what kind of spiritual roots the child has, this small spiritual stone cannot detect it. Chapter 34 Lingxiao. The child needs to be sent to the clan mountain, and with the help of the clan's second-level spiritual root test formation, his spiritual roots can be measured in which spiritual root is the main one. This is also convenient. Children with spiritual roots can avoid many detours when they practice the main method in the future. Most of the casual cultivators in the world of immortal cultivation are delayed in their path because they do not have a spiritual root test formation, do not know which spiritual root is the main one, and practice the method randomly. This is why many casual cultivators with excellent talents have been delayed. It's just a pity that after 3 breaths, the child still did not activate the black spiritual stone. Ling Pengyun frowned slightly, and a look of disappointment appeared on his face. "Back off. You have no spiritual roots," Ling Pengyun said helplessly. The child was naive, nodded, and then smiled and walked out of the ancestral hall, ran back to his parents, and shouted that he wanted to go home for candy. The second person to enter the ancestral hall was a little girl who looked like a porcelain doll. This little girl was still as curious about Ling Pengyun as the previous boy, but this little girl was more timid and did not ask. "Put your hand on this small table," Ling Pengyun said as usual. "Touch the bones to measure age. If the age is appropriate, put the spiritual stone in her hand." After 3 breaths, the spiritual stone still did not react. Then, one child after another entered the ancestral hall to test the spiritual roots. At first, Ling Pengyun was very much looking forward to it, hoping that this Qingshi village would have a child with spiritual roots. After many years, when this child grows up, it can also alleviate some of the shortcomings of the Ling family's lack of manpower. But as time went on, after testing more than 200 children, no one had spiritual roots, and he gradually became numb. It was not until dusk, when the third little boy's arm was touched at the end of the test, that the spiritual stone finally reacted. Spiritual roots. Ling Pengyun's eyes lit up, and his face showed joy. In order to avoid the problem with the spirit stone, Ling Pengyun took the spirit stone from the little boy's hand, injected spiritual power into it, and put it in the child's hand. Seeing that there was still a reaction, he believed it. "I thought that this Qingshi village would be wiped out this year, but I didn't expect that there was a person with spiritual roots," Ling Pengyun said in secret joy. There are not many people in Qingshi village, and Ling Pengyun is satisfied to have a child with spiritual roots. What's your name? Ling Pengyun asked the somewhat introverted little boy softly. My name is Lingxiao, the mountain of the peak. The little boy was a little shy and said in a very low voice. You and I are from the same generation of the Ling family, Peng, so you can call me my 8th brother in the future. Ling Pengyun pulled the child to his side and said with a smile. Afterwards, he called the last 2 children who had their spiritual roots tested this year, and used the spiritual stone to test them. The spiritual stone had no reaction, and it was obvious that the last 2 had no spiritual roots. Ling Pengyun didn't care. After all, Lingxiao already had spiritual roots, but he didn't know what kind of spiritual roots he had. After the spiritual testing meeting ended, the villagers of Qingshi Mountain who were waiting outside the ancestral hall also noticed that Lingxiao, who had entered the ancestral hall early, had not come out of the ancestral hall, and they all secretly guessed that Lingxiao might have immortal fate. As the village chief, Lingdong was also happy, which meant that in the future, their Qingshi village would have another cultivator with a say in the Ling family, and it also meant that the Ling family behind them would be stronger. Not long after, Ling Pengyun took Lingxiao's little hand and walked out of the ancestral hall, announcing to everyone that Lingxiao had immortal fate and would return to the Ling family mountain to practice in the future. Afterwards, he went to Lingxiao's parents and told them that within 3 days, an immortal would come to the clan mountain and take Lingxiao to the clan mountain to find the way. Perhaps Lingxiao would not be able to return home for several years in the future, so he asked them to accompany Lingxiao well in the next few days. Although Lingxiao's parents were extremely happy that their son had an immortal fate, they were reluctant to hear that their son might not be able to return home for several years in the future. However, they all understood that this was their child's opportunity. As parents, they should let their children fly instead of imprisoning them. However, 2 days later, an elder of the clan with the character Yun rode a fairy crane and brought a child to Qingshi Mountain. Ling Pengyun, who had already heard the iconic crane cry of the fairy crane, reached the top of the mountain in advance. Seeing the face of the person riding on the back of the fairy crane, he bowed and greeted politely. Grandpa, is the little boy behind you a person with spiritual roots? Ling Yan, who jumped off the fairy crane with the little boy and said with a smile. Yes, this is a child who was found to have spiritual roots in Xiazi town this year. Calculating the generation, he should be of the Peng generation like you, and he is your cousin. Then, Ling Yan, who took the shy little boy hiding behind him and introduced him. Zhaoqing, this is your Mina, Ling Pengyun. Pengyun, this is Ling Qing. When we return to the clan, we will add the generation name and we will be named Ling Penking. After introducing each other, Ling Yan who asked, Pengyun, has anyone in Qingshi village been found to have spiritual roots this year? Yes. Ling Pengyun replied with a smile. When Ling Yan who heard this answer, his smile became even bigger, and he hurriedly asked where the child with spiritual roots was. Ling Pengyun did not use his identity to take Ling Yanhu to the home of Lingxiao in Qingshi village. In order to confirm whether Lingxiao really had spiritual roots, Ling Yanhu tested it again with the spiritual stone. Seeing that the spiritual stone did react, it was a sign of having spiritual roots. Ling Yanhu said happily. As expected, you have spiritual roots. Pengyun, you have a good chance this time. In this newly established Qingshi village with only more than 3,000 people, we have found a person with spiritual roots. When these children return to the family and use the family's spiritual root detection array to accurately detect the spiritual roots, you will definitely be rewarded with a good amount of spiritual stones. The family will reward those who are stationed on low-level spiritual veins and in villages and towns built on spiritual veins, and those who are detected to have spiritual roots will be rewarded. The rewards will vary according to the spiritual roots. Grandpa, this is too much? This is not my chance, but the chance of Lingxiao, the little guy. I just happen to be lucky. These tribesmen who were born in the mortal world did not have an easy life in the early days. Because I found Lingxiao, a tribe member with spiritual roots, the spiritual stones rewarded by the clan will be divided into half. Ling Pengyun said. Ling Yan, who is very satisfied with Ling Pengyun's actions. Most of the Ling clan members stationed in low-level spiritual veins would do the same when they found people with spiritual roots in ordinary villages and towns, which was considered to be a support for them. Later, Ling Yanhong told Ling Pengyun a bad news. That was at the end of last year, when Ling Rugal, who had traveled to various spiritual veins in Anyang County to collect mature spiritual plants, was in danger when he returned to his family. Although he killed the sneak attack of the mid-stage key training bird, his cultivation level also collapsed very quickly because of the battle. When Ling Ruguo returned to the family, his cultivation level was only 1/10 of what it was, and he fell to the early stage of key training. Now he needs a cane to walk. In less than 2 years, I'm afraid he will. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelists. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 35 Bailingman Zhangli. After more than 20 days, the yellow jade spiritual rice, key training grass, and sword star grass that had been in the spiritual soil for some time had sprouted one after another. After these spiritual plants sprouted, they also had the characteristics of spiritual plants, exuding a trace of spiritual energy. It happened that this period was approaching the beginning of spring, and many insects, birds and beasts that fell asleep in winter all woke up. These sprouting spiritual plants that exuded spiritual energy also attracted many flying insects and birds like last year. Fortunately, the yellow-haired sparrow on the hillside of Qingshi Mountain also ended its sleep and once again served as the guardian of the 6-acre spiritual field of Qingshi Mountain, protecting the safety of the spiritual plants in the 6-acre spiritual field on the top of Qingshi Mountain. Ordinary flying insects are not its enemies at all, and will only become food in the mouth of the yellow-haired sparrow. However, there are some flying birds and pen birds with higher cultivation, which the yellow-haired sparrow cannot fight against. At this time, it needs to trouble the master Ling Pengyun to take action. Time was tight, and Ling Pengyun, who was practicing hard, didn't want to go through so much trouble, so he had to catch another gray-haired rock bird that was attracted by the spiritual plants on the top of the mountain. He put a master recognition restriction in its body and subdued it. With a combined power of one bird and one rock, they guarded the spiritual plants in the 6-acre spiritual field on the top of the mountain. With a combined power of one bird and one rock, Ling Pengyun no longer received any requests for help. In addition to the flying insects and birds, these spiritual plants can also withstand Ling Pengyun's Lingxiao ripening technique every 3 days after germination to speed up their growth. More than 20 days passed. Ling Yanhong, the patriarch of the Ling family who had left the clan mountain for nearly 3 months, rode on the fairy crane king and led a white-haired old man on a green flying boat to appear above Qingshi Lake. The white-haired old man's eyes flashed with light, and he lowered his head to look at the Qingshi Lake below and asked Ling Yanhong, "Clan leader Ling, is this where the Zhuangshu iron vein is?" "Yes, senior, please follow me to dive to the bottom of the lake." Ling Yanhong was very humble and said politely, which showed that the white-haired old man had a very high status. Before the two of them left, a figure jumped out from the bottom of the lake. The white-haired old man frowned and subconsciously took out a flying sword with a spiritual charm from the storage bag on his waist, ready to kill the figure that suddenly appeared. "Senior, this is a member of my Ling clan, sent by me to guard the Zhuangshu iron vein at the bottom of the lake." Ling Yanhong saw the action of the white-haired old man, his heart skipped a beat, and he hurriedly explained. Hearing this explanation, the white-haired old man took back the flying sword he had taken out. The man who jumped out of the water was Ling Ruxin, the second elder of the Ling clan, who had been in charge of the vein for a long time. When Ling Ruxin was stationed at the vein, he heard the iconic cry of the fairy crane, so he left the vein and came out to see the situation. He first bowed to Ling Yanhong, and then looked at the white-haired old man who was standing on the flying boat. He looked up and down, and saw that the cuffs of the Taoist robe on this person were embroidered with the words "By Ling" and many array patterns, and there were 2 golden threads on the right chest, and his expression trembled immediately. This golden thread represents a 2nd level Bai, which is the symbol of Bai in Bailing sect. Seeing that Ling Yanhong had been standing behind this white-haired old man and not standing in the same row with him, he immediately understood that this white-haired old man was probably of high status. Ling Yanhong also saw Ling Ruxin's doubts, so he started to introduce him. "Uncle 13, this is the Bailing sect's supreme elder, the disciple of Lingzhen's Henrin who is in charge of Lingzhen Hall, and Senior Zhangli. This time he came to explore the Zhuangshu mine." Ling Ruxin was shocked when he heard this, and a look of surprise appeared on his cold face. The title of real person is not for everyone. Only those who have reached the golden elixir stage can be called so. However, there is a golden elixir master named Lingzhen in Bailing sect. The disciple of a golden elixir master must be a dragon among men. Ling Ruxin rarely showed a respectful look and bowed his hands. Senior Zhang. Zhang Li seemed a little impatient and said to Ling Yunhong, "Take me to see the location of the mineral vein quickly." Ling Yunhong saw that Zhang Li was so disrespectful to his elders and was concerned about the people behind him. Although he had some opinions in his heart, he did not dare to express them and could only nod and say yes. Not long after, the three of them entered the Zhuanshu mineral vein channel in the dark river at the bottom of Qingshi Lake and the demon python's nest. Zhang Li saw that the surrounding area of the channel was full of Zhuanshu iron ore. After another exploration with his spiritual sense, he found that the Zhuanshu iron ore vein was indeed as Ling Yunhong said, extending for more than 480 feet. He was overjoyed. "This mineral vein is indeed good. Your Ling family did not deceive my bailing sect. Sign this contract we have drafted together, and it will be done." While speaking, Zhang Li handed 2 yellow papers to Ling Yunhong. Ling Yunhong took them. Although he also participated in the drafting of the contents of the 2 yellow papers, in order to avoid changes from bailing sect, he took a rough look at them. Seeing that the contract was normal, he used blood as a pen to sign his own name and Lingxiao Ling family on the 2 yellow papers. This contract is of no use. Its main function is to stand on the moral high ground and take direct action against a party who broke the contract after the other party broke the contract. In order to maintain its 1,000-year reputation, bailing sect will not easily break the contract. For the safety of the clan, Ling family will naturally not break the contract. 2 contracts, one for himself, and one for Zhang Li. Zhang Li took the contract and saw that everything was done. He waved out several things from the storage bag and then said, "The contract has been made, and our deal is done. This is the 2nd level alchemist heritage, 1st level weaponsmith heritage, 1st level formation master heritage, and the foundation building technique Genjin sword classic in exchange for 50,000 kilograms of Zhuanshu iron ore from this vein by your Ling family. As for these 10 humanoid puppets in the early stage of key training, they are specially used for mining. They are considered to be lent to your Ling family by my bailing sect for mining. We provide the puppets, and you provide the spiritual stones to drive the puppets to mine. Based on 5,000 kilograms of Zhuanshu iron ore per year, you must hand over 50,000 kilograms of Zhuanshu iron ore within 10 years. If it's too late, you know the consequences. Okay, you guys go out. I'm going to set up a formation here to guard this place to prevent people from other sects from coveting this place." When Ling Yunhong heard that he had to hand over 50,000 kilograms of Zhuanshu iron ore to bailing sect within 10 years, his brows frowned slightly, but soon relaxed. After receiving the 4 books, his eyes flashed brightly. He ignored Zhang Li's impolite words and quickly flipped through the 4 books to check their authenticity. After a careful look, he found that the contents of the 4 books were not wrong, but the inheritance of alchemy, refining, and array formations was relatively ordinary and had no special features. Ling Yunhong didn't care about this. It was good to have a complete inheritance. He believed that his Ling family would be able to continuously improve the contents of these 2 arts and enhance the contents of these inheritances in the future. He put away the 4 books and the 10 humanoid mining puppets, and took Ling Ru out of the mine first, leaving the mine space to Zhang Li, the 2nd level array master. Not long after, Zhang Li placed a set of 2nd level defense array flags that he had prepared long ago on the mine. A huge light curtain suddenly rose from the bluestone lake, covering the bluestone lake that was thousands of feet wide. As soon as the light curtain was formed, it disappeared, and then a sound of iron and gold came from the bottom of the lake. After a few breaths, Zhang Li jumped out from the bottom of the lake with a happy face and came to the lakeside next to Ling Yunhong and Ling Ruxin. "Chief Ling, this is the control array of the 2nd level lower grade water enriching curtain array. This array can only be used for defense, but its defensive ability is top-notch among the arrays of the same level. Even if it is controlled by a cultivator in the key training stage, as long as the spiritual energy is sufficient, it can block the simultaneous attacks of more than 3 cultivators in the initial stage of foundation building. 10 years later, when your Ling family needs to hand over the Zhuanshu iron ore to the sect, this array will also be collected by the sect. Don't damage it intentionally. Otherwise, you will be compensated at the price." Ling Yunhong was already unhappy with Zhang Li's unkind words. Seeing Zhang Li's face glowing red, plus the sound of iron and gold coming from the bottom of the lake just now, he didn't need to guess too much. He understood that Zhang Li was afraid that he had used a magic weapon to cut a lot of ore and planned to embezzle it. Such things are not fair. With this person's handle, Ling Yunhong showed a playful look on his face, stretched out his hand to take the array plate handed over, and said meaningfully, "The ore that Senior Zhang took is a gift from our Ling family to Senior. Please take care of our Ling family in the future. Otherwise, my Ling family's things are not so easy to get." Just a second-level low-grade array master. Zhang Li's face froze, but looking at Ling Yunhong's sharp look, and Ling Yunhong actually put his hand on the storage bag boldly, it really meant that he would take out the magic weapon from it to fight in the next moment. He was wrong about embezzling some ore. This matter is not a big deal or a small matter. No one will pursue it. But if this matter is exposed to the sect, his reputation will plummet, and it may even affect his own and even his descendants' promotion in the sect. Bailing in Lingzhen Hall, the position of deputy hall master, he still wants to sit in a seat in his lifetime. Zhang Li also felt a little guilty in his heart and said secretly, "I actually ran into a tough guy." "Got it." Zhang Li replied in a deep voice, looking frustrated, and drove the flying boat away. Ling Yunhong stared coldly at Zhang Li's back as he left, until Zhang Li's figure could no longer be seen with the naked eye, and then he withdrew his gaze. Then, he handed the formation plate and a storage bag in his hand to Ling Ruxin and said, "Uncle 13, you are the only one in the family who can leave, so you will have to stay here for a while. The control array of the Yunshu Huamu formation and the 10 mining puppets are now handed over to you. There are also 500 spirit stones, which can be used to activate the 10 mining puppets and to activate the Meridian Protection formation in times of crisis. You are too polite. As an elder of the family, I naturally have to take responsibility. When I am in the family mountain, I am also idle. There is no difference between staying here and being in the family. When I am free, I can also teach Pengyun a few sword techniques." Ling Ruxin has always been devoted to the family. He is very happy to be valued by the family and sent to an important place to guard. Today's 2 chapters are both 3,000 words, which is the amount of 3 chapters. Please read it tomorrow. Chapter 36, Selection of Weapon Refining Seedlings. It was also a coincidence that Cao arrived when he was mentioned. Ling Pengyun, who was stationed in Qingshi Mountain, had noticed an extremely powerful spiritual power fluctuation erupting from the Qingshi Lake nearby. He immediately stopped practicing and looked at the situation. He saw that it was Ling Yunhong, Ling Ruxin, and a stranger who set up a magic array. He felt relieved. He thought that the Zhuangshu mine was discovered by others and had a fight with Ling Ruxin, who was stationed in the mine. After noticing the situation, he immediately went down the mountain and rushed over to the Qingshi Lake, next to Ling Yunhong and Ling Ruxin. Ling Pengyun asked curiously, "Third ancestor, 13th great ancestor, did you set up a formation on the mine just now?" "Yes," Ling Yunhong replied, then thought of something and asked, "Pengyun, how far have you comprehended the earthly evil sword art recently?" Ling Pengyun was not surprised that Ling Yunhong knew that he had comprehended the sword art, and simply replied, "Not much progress. According to my grandson's estimation, it will be difficult to comprehend this sword art within 3 to 5 years. Ling Yunhong and Ling Ruxin, who were standing by, were shocked when they heard this. Ling Yunhong saw Ling Pengyun's helpless look and said with a smile, "It took your 13th great-grandfather 7 years to comprehend this sword art, Pengxing 5 years, and I also spent 4 years to comprehend this sword formation. If you are sure that you can comprehend this sword art within 3 to 5 years, you have a good understanding, which is comparable to me. Don't be discouraged. This sword art is the core of the sword formation, so it is naturally more difficult to comprehend it." Ling Pengyun's eyes lit up when he heard these comforting words. He thought he was slow to comprehend the sword art, but he didn't expect it to be fast. "It seems that the earlier breath of yin and yang Taichu Qi has improved my understanding a lot. It's getting late. I have something important to do. I will return to the family first. You guys chat?" After Ling Yunhong finished speaking, he rode a fairy crane king and rushed back to the family. "Pengyun, have you encountered any difficulties in comprehending the sword art?" After hearing the speed of Ling Pengyun's comprehending the sword art, Ling Ruxin was very satisfied with him, so he took the initiative to speak and wanted to help him. Ling Pengyun was not polite and told this story. "Yes, when I was comprehending the sword art." The two stood by the Qingshi Lake and discussed the sword art as the topic. After several hours, this discussion ended. Ling Pengyun glanced and saw that many villagers in Qingshi village poked their heads out to look at this place. He frowned and asked, 13th great-grandfather, what should we do with those villagers in Qingshi village who were attracted by the strange formation guarding the mine vein just now like me? Let them go. Even if they spread rumors, it's no big deal. Now that the mine vein has the participation of Bailingmen, the other foundation building families in Huaishu County can't do anything to us. The other major clans of Yan State don't look down on this mine vein. Don't worry. Ling Ruxin waved his hand. The two chatted for a while before parting ways. One returned to Qingshi Mountain, and the other returned to the Zhuanshu iron vein at the bottom of Qingshi Lake. Lingxiao Mountain, meeting room. As soon as Ling Yanhong rode the fairy crane king back to Lingxiao Mountain, he summoned the great elder Ling Ruda and the fifth elder Ling Yangxi in the clan to the meeting room. After receiving the news, Ling Ruda, who had just entered the meeting room with Ling Yangxi, saw Ling Yanhong sitting at the long table in the meeting room, with a red face and a face full of expectation, and asked, Yanhong, did you gain anything from the trip to Bailingmen? Third brother, did you get the second-level alchemy inheritance? Ling Yangxi also had this expression and said. Ling Yanhong smiled and told the details of his gains. Fortunately, I have fulfilled my mission. During this trip to Bailingmen, I used the Zhuanshu iron ore to not only obtain the second-level alchemy and first-level weapon refining inheritance, but also a set of first-level formation master inheritance. As for the foundation building technique, I chose the gold-attributed technique Zhenjin Sword Classic that complements Pengxing's main cultivation of gold spiritual roots. The reason I chose this sword cultivation method based on gold spiritual roots is, firstly, because my family owns the Disha sword formation. If it is performed with this sword cultivation method, it will surely unleash the full power of the sword formation, and I'm afraid it will be able to cross realms and kill multiple enemies. The second reason is that Pengxing, who mainly cultivates gold spiritual roots, also follows the path of sword cultivation. He has already comprehended sword formations and sword intent, so I chose it. However, in order to exchange for these four items, the Zhuanshu iron ore exceeded our imagination. We spent a full 50,000 kilograms of Zhuanshu iron ore. Ling Ruda did not care about the share of Zhuanshu iron ore he spent, but laughed out loud. It's okay. With a second-level alchemy inheritance, as long as you, Yanhong, can become a second-level alchemist, and the two alchemy seedlings in the family are more motivated, our Ling family will prosper. And the 300 arts inheritances you have obtained this time can also complete the 500 arts that our Ling family does not have, namely formation, instrument, talisman, pill, and plant. Our Ling family has all the first-level inheritances of these 100 arts. I am afraid that the foundation is enough to rival some old-fashioned foundation-building families. Why worry about not prospering? As for Ling Yangxi, who had been stuck at the first-level middle-grade formation for many years because of the lack of a complete first-level formation master inheritance, when she heard that there was an extra gain this time, in exchange for a complete first-level formation master inheritance, she had already laughed so hard that she couldn't close her mouth and lost her mind for a while. After a long while, she came back to her senses and thanked Ling Yanhong. Third brother, thank you very much. Ling Yanhong also knew what she meant. He took out a book from the storage bag and threw it to Ling Yangxi. It's okay. In exchange for this array inheritance, it's for you and for the family. This is a copy of the inheritance of the first-level array master. Don't pass it on to others. Ling Yangxi took the book, flipped through it, and saw the content of the array, and his expression was extremely excited. 15th sister, alright, let's put aside the matter of comprehending the array first. We have already selected the seedlings that the family focuses on cultivating in alchemy and talismans, but the seedlings for array and weapon refining have not yet been selected. During the time I was away, have you found any candidates? Ling Yanhong saw Ling Yangxi's expression and interrupted to ask. Ling Ruda did not speak, but looked at Ling Yangxi. It was obvious that Ling Yangxi had a candidate to recommend. Ling Yangxi glanced at Ling Ruda, looked at him, hesitated for a moment, and then spoke. Third brother, you also know that the difficulty of formation is far beyond the other 100 arts. As the only formation master in the family, I look for people with formation talent every year. But in the whole family, only my granddaughter Penguin has some talent. I plan to recommend Penguin to cultivate a seedling for formation. I wonder if it is okay. In order to avoid the patriarch Ling Yunhong suspecting that he was abusing his power for personal gain and promoting his descendants, Ling Yangxi added another sentence. Please believe me, third brother, I have no intention of abusing my power for personal gain. Penguin's formation is indeed good. Under my teaching, she is now about to enter the realm of the first level lower grade in formation. Ling Yunhong said. We have known each other for decades. I know who you are. The key member of the formation is Penguin, the 10th generation of Peng. She can get the support of the family's formation resources in the future. But 15th sister, I'll say bad things first. Penguin still needs to be trained with alchemy, spirit talismans, and spirit plants. If she fails to enter the first level lower grade in her own 100 arts before the age of 18, she will lose the family's key training. Ling Yangxi said happily. Don't worry, third brother, Penguin will be able to arrange formations on her own and enter the first level lower grade in less than a year. Okay, I'll wait until my Ling family has another formation master. 15th sister, 11th uncle, the only missing seedling of formation, planned, pill, weapon, talisman, refining weapon, do you have anyone to choose? Ling Yunhong asked. No. In the past few months since the Zhuanshu iron ore vein was discovered, I have asked Yunong to screen the Xiao and Peng generations in the family to see if there are any talents in refining weapons. However, except for Xiao Ahua, who has been following Yunnan for a long time and processing some ores to refine into spiritual iron, no one else has the talent for refining weapons. But Xiao Ahua is already 50 years old. Although he has some talent for refining weapons, it is not much. For so many years, he has been hovering around as an apprentice of refining weapons, and his success rate of refining weapons is also low. He has never been able to enter the first level. Letting him become a refining weapon seedling of our Ling family is probably a bit of a waste of talent. Ling Ruda shook his head. Seeing this, Ling Yunhong frowned slightly and was extremely disappointed. He spent a lot of money to exchange for the refining heritage from Bailingman, but no one in the family could inherit it. It was really a tragedy for the Ling family. With a helpless sigh, Ling Yunhong thought of himself. He was not only a second-level spiritual plant master, but also a first-level middle-grade weapon refiner, a first-level lower-grade alchemist, and practiced 300 arts. So he planned to let a clan member with outstanding comprehension to practice 2 arts at the same time, so as to prepare for Ling Yunan's death and not let the family fall into the situation of being without a weapon refiner. His face lit up and he made a proposal. Do you think Pengyun is capable? As soon as this proposal was made, it was rejected by Ling Ruda, who regarded Ling Pengyun as his successor. No, let's not talk about whether Pengyun can comprehend the weapon refinement. Pengyun has already entered the spiritual plant path and needs to practice. If he is allowed to step into the weapon refinement, I am afraid that he will have no hope of breaking through to the perfection of key training before the age of 60. Ling Yunhong frowned slightly when he saw Ling Ruda's refusal, and said, Uncle 11, it is well known that any of the 100 arts places great emphasis on comprehension and spiritual awareness. Among the generation with the surname Peng, the only one who can compare with Pengyun in comprehension and spiritual awareness is probably Peng Xing. Although Peng Xing does not have any of the 100 arts, he has already entered the path of swordsmanship and cannot be distracted. There are basically no talents in the generation with the surname Xiao. The young Pengs of the family who can be named have entered other paths. I am also a spiritual plant master, so I naturally know that the time required for spiritual planting is actually not much compared to the other 100 arts. Besides, even if there is no burden of refining tools, what are the chances that Pengyun can break through to the perfection of key training before the age of 60? What is the probability that he can enter the foundation building stage? Instead of letting him do this, it is better to give him a way to earn more spirit stones. If Pengyun works hard, he can do both spiritual planting and refining at the same time like I did when I was young, relying on both to earn spirit stones, buy resources, and speed up the progress of his cultivation. In addition, Pengyun and I have also made an agreement. If he can break through to the perfection of key training before the age of 60, the family can jointly invest with him to buy a second-class foundation building spiritual object. If he only relies on spiritual plants to earn spiritual stones, it would be difficult to earn so many spiritual stones. Although I am also a weapon refiner, I have to take on the family's alchemy and quickly raise the alchemy path to the second level. I don't have much energy to refine magic tools for the family. Another weapon refiner in the family, Yunnan, also has a short lifespan. I must find another weapon refiner seedling, otherwise my Ling family's magic tools will be trapped here in the future and can only be purchased from outside, and the inheritance of weapon refinement will be wasted. After these words came out, Ling Ruda was speechless. Indeed, the family has no talents. The only few people who can show off are already seedlings of other arts. Only Ling Pengyun is in the spiritual plant path, which requires less time than other arts, and has excellent comprehension and spiritual awareness. Okay, I agree to this, but if Pengyun doesn't agree to this, you can't force him. Ling Ruda said helplessly. Of course. Ling Yanhong smiled. The talents of refining weapons and formations have been selected, and this council is coming to an end. Thanks to Yun Xian Wang Chui Mo Qingshi for the monthly ticket. Chapter 37, Dual Arts Practice. In Qingshi Village. After Ling Pengyun and Ling Ruxin left, the villagers who had seen the strangeness of Qingshi Lake were called together by the village chief Lingdong. He said that it was a family matter and asked the villagers who saw the strangeness to hide what they saw in their hearts. If they violated the family rules, they would be beheaded. This warning did work. Few people spread the news of the strangeness of Qingshi Lake. Only a few sneaky people told the ordinary people of other families about the strangeness of Qingshi Lake and the gathering of 4 immortals in exchange for money. Although these people were eventually killed by Lingdong Sun Zhenmo Liu and the Qingshi village Lingxiao guards, they also brought a lot of trouble to Qingshi village. This matter ended in less than 3 days, and more than a dozen cultivators from the other 4 foundation-building families in Huaishu County disguised themselves as mortals and came to Qingshi village to find the villagers in the village to ask whether the strangeness of Qingshi Lake was true. Even, there were several brave family monks who sneaked into Qingshi Lake to investigate the situation. In the end, it was Lingru, who was stationed in the Zuanshu mine, who took the initiative to kill several monks who sneaked into Qingshi Lake to establish this prestige. Afterwards, he did not hide it and directly told the public that there was a spiritual iron mine in this place and that Bailingman also had a share of the mine. With the majesty of Bailingman, those foundation-building clans who had been interested in the Qingshi Lake mine were scared away. The 5th day after the Qingshi Lake incident, Ling Yanhong, the head of the Ling family, came to Qingshi Mountain again, found Ling Pengyun, and told him that the family planned to train him as a seedling for refining. What? Let me learn refining. Ling Pengyun was really shocked when he heard what Ling Yanhong told him, and exclaimed. That's right, calm down and don't make a fuss. Ling Yanhong saw Ling Pengyun's expression and said with a smile. Of course I know your situation. Like you, I first entered the path of spiritual planting and then practiced weapon refining. I even tried alchemy and practiced the 3 arts at the same time. I still cultivated to my current level of cultivation, and my spiritual planting has also entered the 2nd level. If I had not lacked a complete inheritance in weapon refining and alchemy, I would have reached the 1st class upper level long ago. In the final analysis, no matter what the art is, the most difficult thing is comprehension, and then the talent in a certain art. Your comprehension and spiritual strength are not inferior to mine, so if I can do it, you can do it too. The family is now losing talents, and Yunan's lifespan is not long. In less than 20 to 30 years, the family will have no weapon refiner to refine weapons for the family. Only you can hope to take on this task. I don't need you to reach the 1st class upper level of weapon refining or become a 2nd class weapon refiner. I just hope that you can succeed Yun and become a 1st class middle grade weapon refiner. Besides, do you think you can earn a lot of spiritual stones by cultivating spiritual plants? Among all the arts, cultivating spiritual plants is the most difficult and slow to produce spiritual stones. If you can master the art of refining, you can earn a lot of spiritual stones in the future, and then use spiritual objects to help you make up for your cultivation. There is no problem at all. You can even save enough to buy the 1st class spiritual objects for foundation building with your family. Of course, if you still don't want to, I won't force you. If you agree, the family will also help you to provide materials for refining. Similarly, you can't be lazy and need to take it seriously. Ling Pengyun heard this and saw that Ling Yanhong had more confidence in himself than he did. He wanted to complain. He really wanted to say, if I had your talent for cultivation, I would definitely agree to this, but who made me just a person with a talent for cultivation that barely matched the 3 spiritual roots? For a moment, he was particularly embarrassed. If he agreed to become a seedling for refining, he would have to focus on refining and reduce the time for cultivation, which was already limited. If he becomes a weapon refiner, it is fine. He can earn a lot of spirit stones through weapon refinement, buy cultivation resources, and make up for the lack of cultivation time. But if he does not become a weapon refiner or is neither high nor low, he will waste a lot of time on weapon refinement. This is a regret for both Ling Pengyun and the family who have invested a lot of weapon refinement resources in him. If he does not agree to become a family weapon refiner, the family's talents will wither and no one will continue the weapon refinement. After decades, after Ling Yunan dies, the family's magic tools will have to be purchased from outside, which will be a huge expense. It will definitely be ripped off by those weapon refinery families. Ling Pengyun is somewhat proud of his own understanding and has some confidence. He can step into the weapon refinement, but he is not sure and dare not agree easily. After hesitating for a few breaths, Ling Pengyun made a decision and replied, "Third ancestor, I will follow the path of practicing 200 arts." Ling Yuanhong saw Ling Pengyun agreed, but he was not happy at all. He immediately understood that Ling Pengyun might not have chosen to practice 200 arts for him, so he explained, "Pengyun, don't blame the family for putting all the pressure on you. It's really because the family is facing difficulties and has no idea where to start." Ling Pengyun said, "I understand, third ancestor, the family raised me and treated me well. I will definitely devote all my heart and soul to refining weapons and will not neglect it." Ling Yuanhong nodded lightly, took out a storage bag that had been prepared long ago from his arms, and handed it to Ling Pengyun. In this storage bag, there are the refining insights and inheritance left by the Ling family's successive refiners, 1,000 kilograms of ordinary iron for refining ordinary iron, 50 kilograms of firewood, a first-grade low-grade refining furnace, and 10 recording discs. These are the recordings of me refining 7 different kinds of ordinary iron in the family a few days ago, as well as refining the first-grade low-grade magic weapon Qingshi sword, light Taoist robe, and round iron shield. Watching more will help you comprehend the art of refining. As for the ordinary iron, it is for you to practice. After half a year, I will come to this Qingshi Mountain to stay for a month and teach you how to refine magic weapons. If you can refine a magic weapon after that month, you can officially become a key seedling of my Ling family's refining and get the family's support for refining spiritual materials. Okay. Ling Pengyun took the storage bag and said solemnly. Ling Yuanhong patted Ling Pengyun on the shoulder, then left the cave and flew away on the fairy crane king. Ling Pengyun walked to the cave entrance, and after seeing Ling Yuanhong off, he stared blankly at the storage bag Ling Yuanhong had just given him, lost in thought for a moment. This weapon refining really messed up his future plans. Since I have taken on this matter, I must also plan this weapon refining thing carefully. Now, the only way left for me is to achieve something in this weapon refining. The success rate of refining magic tools is extremely high, and I can earn a large amount of cultivation resources to feed back to my cultivation. Otherwise, there is no hope of breaking through to the perfection of key training before the age of 60. I can only succeed, not fail. Ling Pengyun's expression gradually became firm. Chapter 38 Busy Life. He took a deep breath and suppressed the confusion in his heart. He then returned to the cave, sat cross-legged on the ground, and took out a book called Lingxiao Refining Treasure Book from the storage bag in his hand. In addition to recording the Lingxiao fusion method, fire control, refining techniques, hundreds of refining spiritual materials, introductions to several refining spiritual patterns, and the insights of the family's successive refiners, this refining book also records the refining diagrams of the 3 magical instruments, the green bamboo sword, the light Taoist robe, and the round iron shield. Among the contents of this treasure book, the most important are the spiritual patterns and the Lingxiao fusion method, which are the key to the refiner's promotion to higher grade. Fire control, refining techniques, etc. are secondary. Without these spiritual patterns and the method of melting instruments, even the magical instruments cannot be refined. Ling Pengyun spent some time memorizing the Lingxiao fusion method and the method of drawing sharp spiritual patterns in his mind, and then closed his eyes and began to comprehend. After comprehending for about an hour, he stopped. According to the progress of my comprehending the method of melting the weapon and the method of drawing sharp spiritual patterns for half an hour respectively, it should be no problem to get started with these 2 methods within half a year. Ling Pengyun said happily. He did not expect that his comprehension was so strong. The sharp spiritual patterns and the method of melting the weapon are related to whether one can refine the weapon. Once he has a preliminary understanding of them, Ling Pengyun can actually be regarded as an apprentice of refining the weapon. As long as he masters the elements of fire control, techniques, etc., and successfully refines a magic weapon, he can become a real apprentice of refining the weapon. As for the weapon refiner, he needs to increase the success rate of refining a magic weapon to more than 30% before he can be called a weapon refiner. Under normal circumstances, the success rate of refining a weapon reaches 30% to earn spirit stones. If you can't even earn spirit stones, how can you be honored as a weapon refiner? At the same time, Ling Pengyun also sighed secretly, the power of creation of the yin and yang primordial key. I'm afraid I will have great success in this art of refining in the future. If so, I really need to go all out and quickly enter the art of refining, so that I can earn spirit stones with this art of refining as soon as possible, feed back to my cultivation, and benefit the family. Half a year later, the third ancestor will come here to teach me how to refine magic tools. During this time, I have to make good use of the refining furnace and the 1000 jin ordinary iron in the storage bag to try to refine some ordinary iron tools with lower difficulty, so as to prepare for refining magic tools half a year later. In terms of refining spiritual patterns, I have to go hand in hand with comprehending the method of melting instruments. Refining is a kind of spiritual pattern that increases magic tools. For example, Ling Pengyun's black iron sword has 2 spiritual patterns of sharp and rapid. In the Lingxiao refining treasure book in Ling Pengyun's hand, there are 3 types of refining spiritual patterns, namely sharp, solid, and light, corresponding to the 3 magic tools of the green bamboo sword, round iron shield, and light Taoist robe. Since he had a plan, he didn't delay too much. He picked up the storage bag given by Ling Yunhong beside him and called all the things in it to the ground. At one time, there was a pile of ordinary iron as big as a small mountain, 50 kilograms of firewood, a black refining furnace about 10 feet long with various patterns of spiritual rice engraved on the surface, and 10 photo plates with red notes on them. Ling Pengyun didn't pay much attention to the 1000 kilograms of ordinary iron. No matter how much ordinary iron there was, it was still a mundane thing after all, with very low value. For cultivators, it was just a thing for cultivators who had just entered the art of refining. Only the latter 3 were worthy of Ling Pengyun's attention. Firewood was the source of flames when cultivators refined elixirs, magic tools, etc. This wood was not only flammable but also very flame resistant. Just put the flame on the firewood, and the flame will quickly grow and turn into a blazing flame, and then assist the cultivators in refining elixirs or magic tools. On the top of the black refining furnace, the word black flame was engraved, and on the red notes attached to the 10 image discs, it was written every hoe, every kitchen knife, every sickle, green bamboo sword, light Taoist robe, round iron shield. The word black flame should be the name of this refining furnace, and the name written on the note attached to the image disc should be the content of the image disc. Ling Pengyun guessed. He injected spiritual power into the 10 image discs one by one, and took a rough look. It was indeed as he thought. The image disc with the note every hoe attached was the scene of refining a hoe. The method of refining an ordinary hoe also uses the method of using burning wood as the fire source in refining a magic weapon, and the person who refined it was Ling Yunhong. Thinking back to what the third ancestor said before, these 10 video discs were all recorded 5 days before he came here. I think the third ancestor was sure that I would agree to become the family's weapon refiner, so he made preparations in advance. But the third ancestor was willing to use a video disc worth 10 spirit stones to record the refining of ordinary iron tools. The video disc is a kind of recording spiritual object, made of video stones. On the market, a blank video disc is worth 10 spirit stones. If you want to record a video, you only need to inject spiritual power into it to record the image. When you want to watch it, inject spiritual power into it, and the image will appear on the disc. After taking a rough look at the things in the storage bag given by Ling Yunhong, Ling Pengyun began to sacrifice the refining furnace first. It was not until night that he stopped, stood up and went outside the cave to absorb the power of the moonlight. After absorbing it, he watched the images of refining ordinary hoes, ordinary kitchen knives and other farm tools, as well as the refining insights of Ling's successive weapon refiners in the Lingxiao weapon refining treasure book, and then closed his eyes again. However, this time he closed his eyes, not to continue to sacrifice the refining furnace, but to practice. Ling Pengyun already had a plan for what he did every day. Half an hour a day was used to absorb the power of the early sun at dawn. Half an hour was used to cast spiritual rain to water the 6 acres of spiritual plants on the top of the mountain. 1 hour was used to comprehend the sword formation. 1 hour was used to comprehend Lingxiao's ripening technique. 1 hour was used to comprehend spells. 1 hour was used to warm the growth of thorny vines. Half an hour was used to comprehend Lingxiao's method of melting weapons. Half an hour was used to comprehend the spiritual patterns of refining weapons. Half an hour was used to watch the images in the 10-sided image disc. Half an hour was used to absorb the power of moonlight at night. 2 hours were used to sacrifice the refining furnace. The last 3 hours were spent on cultivation until the next morning. Every 3 days, the time for performing the Lingxiao ripening technique on the spiritual plants was squeezed out of the cultivation time. The schedule was full. However, Ling Pengyun was happy with such a tight schedule. There are always some people in this world who like to be busy, and Ling Pengyun is obviously one of them. On the 10th day of refining the black flame refining furnace, he finally imprinted his spiritual consciousness into the black flame refining furnace. In order to exert the power of the magic weapon to the fullest, the cultivator must perform a ritual. If it is not performed, it can only exert 70% of the power of the magic weapon at most. I have now finished refining this black flame refining furnace. In the future, the time for refining the furnace every day should be changed to refining ordinary farm tools. The refining furnace has been completed, and Ling Pengyun naturally began his great cause of refining tools, using the method of refining magic tools to refine ordinary farm tools. He first reviewed the method of refining the ordinary hoe that Ling Pengyun was more familiar with. Then he took out a few arm-thick and arm-long firewood from his storage bag and placed them several feet in front of him. He used his spiritual power to conjure a flame and ignited it. According to the fire control method recorded in the treasure book, Ling Pengyun unfamiliarly invaded the flame of the firewood with his spiritual consciousness and controlled the flame to a relatively gentle size. Then, he hit the black flame refining furnace that had just been sacrificed beside him on the burning firewood, so that the refining furnace was suspended above the bottom of the flame, burning the refining furnace to heat the temperature of the refining furnace. When the temperature in the refining furnace reached a certain level, Ling Pengyun used the control of objects to open the top of the refining furnace, and then took out a piece of ordinary iron of a suitable size from the pile of ordinary iron deep in the cave, threw it into the refining furnace, covered the furnace cover again, and melted the ordinary iron into molten iron at high temperature. In the huge refining furnace, the boiling hot molten iron was formed into the shape of a hoe. Because the method of melting the instrument had not yet been fully comprehended, Ling Pengyun followed the image recorded by Ling Yanhuang in the video disc. He first summoned the hoe, which was still just molten iron, out of the refining furnace, and condensed it into shape with the power of his spiritual consciousness, and then summoned a ball of clear water to cool it. The cold water hit the molten iron, making a sizzling sound. At the same time, a layer of water mist and a strange smell also emerged. After the molten iron hoe cooled, it also took shape. Because the hoe was refined using the method of refining a magical instrument, the blade of the hoe was actually sharpened, and there was no problem in opening up farmland. Ling Pengyun looked at the hoe that he had refined, which was still warm, and his face was full of joy. This hoe should be considered hard in the eyes of ordinary people, barely up to the standard. As long as a hoe handle is installed, it should be able to be used for many years. When I refine the nearly 1,000 kilograms of ordinary iron left in this cave into farm tools, I can supplement the villagers of Qingshi village. Afterwards, Ling Pengyun refined several kitchen knives, sickles and other farm tools, as a step to formally refine magic tools after 6 months of proficiency. Thanks, Yishao Zhe Nai's monthly ticket. Chapter 39. The 39th attempt to refine equipment. Time passed little by little, and it was April in a blink of an eye. After the Qingming festival, there was a very long drizzle in the area around Qingshi Mountain, which moistened the land and added a boost to the plants that were already growing. After the rain, Ling Dong, the head of Qingshi village, also took every household in Qingshi village to Ziazi town, 300 miles away, to buy rice seeds for this year's planting. For 10 consecutive days, he returned to Qingshi village without stopping, distributed rice seeds to each family, and began to summon all the villagers of Qingshi village to sow rice seeds in the rice fields that had been prepared long ago, waiting for the rice seeds to germinate and grow, and then transplant rice seedlings. After the autumn harvest last year, the fields around Qingshi village had been opened up to more than 10,000 acres by more than 3,000 villagers. This also added a lot of heavy farm work this year. After the rice seeds sown germinated and grew into seedlings, the transplanting took more than 3,000 villagers a full 10 days to complete. The work of managing the rice fields afterwards was even more onerous. However, for the farmers, such work was also enjoyable. After a short period of hard work, after the autumnal equinox, they would harvest more rice than last year, which could be exchanged for more gold and silver. The gradual affluence of the family was the motivation for the farmers to persist. The men of Qingshi village were generally busy in the fields, while the women worked in a specially developed vegetable field of nearly 1,000 mu, carrying water to irrigate the vegetables in the vegetable field. The young children in the village were also early in the family, catching fish in the shallow waters of Qingshi Lake together to add another dish to the family, or going to the 1,000 mu orchard outside Qingshi village to do some small work of pulling weeds. In mid-June, Ling Rufan, the 9th generation of the Ling family, who succeeded Ling Ruguo in distributing salaries to the clan members stationed in the low-level Lingxian, had also been to Qingshi Mountain. Ling Pengyun was given offerings for the next 6 months, which were the same as before: 6 key training pills, 12 huangaya pills, 120 kilograms of green jade spirit rice, and 60 spirit stones. In a blink of an eye, 6 months had passed since the appointment with Ling Yunhong, and Ling Yunhong arrived as scheduled. At the top of a Qingshi Mountain, Ling Yunhong, who had just landed on Qingshi Mountain on the immortal spirit Crane King, looked at Ling Pengyun, who had been waiting in front of him, and asked with a bit of nervousness and expectation, "Pengyun, can you comprehend the method of Lingxiao fusion instrument?" Ling Pengyun replied with a bit of satisfaction, "A month ago, I barely comprehended the entry." Ling Yunhong heard this and smiled, saying with a smile, "Not bad, not bad." He sighed several times and then stopped and asked, "Have you finished refining the 1,000 jins of ordinary iron? Have you learned the spiritual patterns in the treasure book?" The ordinary iron has been consumed, and the ordinary iron ores that were refined have been handed over to the more than 3,000 villagers of Qingshi village outside the mountain. As for the spiritual patterns of refining tools in the treasure book, my grandson has only barely comprehended the sharp spiritual pattern, which he has impressed on ordinary iron, but because the foundation of ordinary iron is too weak, every time the spiritual pattern is formed, the ordinary ironware cannot withstand it and then collapses on its own. Ling Pengyun said, "In half a year, it is already good to comprehend a sharp spiritual pattern while comprehending the method of melting tools. Ordinary apprentices need several years." Ling Yunhong first praised, and then said, "Since you have refined a lot of ordinary ironware according to the method of refining tools with 1,000 jins of ordinary iron, I think you are familiar with the process of refining magic tools, so let's get on the right track and start refining magic tools. Are you ready? My grandson has been waiting for this day for a long time." Ling Pengyun said expectantly. "This mountain top has birds flying over from time to time, and there are strong winds blowing. It's not a quiet place. Let's go to your cave." Ling Yunhong looked at the surrounding environment and suggested, "During the process of refining, it is extremely taboo to be disturbed by others, and it is necessary to be in a relatively quiet environment." Ling Pengyun naturally agreed, and returned to the cave halfway up the mountain with Ling Yunhong. As soon as he entered the cave, Ling Yunhong handed a storage bag in his hand to Ling Pengyun and said carefully, "Pengyun, here are a total of 54-foot-long Qingling bamboos and 50 kilograms of Qingxun iron, which can support you to refine the Qinggai sword 50 times. Among the 50 times, as long as you succeed once, you can become the seedling of my Ling family's refining, get the family's support in refining materials, and help you go further and further in refining. Everything depends on your performance." Ling Pengyun took the storage bag handed over. Although he was looking forward to refining, he was also a little nervous. Don't look at his 100% success rate in refining ordinary iron tools. That's mainly because ordinary iron is just an ordinary thing. Not to mention Ling Pengyun, any apprentice who knows a little bit about refining tools can achieve a 100% success rate in refining ordinary iron tools. As for refining magic tools, he has never done it before. He is not sure whether he can succeed once in 50 times. If any apprentice who has just entered the field of refining tools can easily refine a magic tool of the entry grade, there will not be so few weapon refiners in this world, and magic tools will not be so precious. For beginners, it is already good to have a 1 in 50 chance of refining a magic tool of the entry grade, which is a symbol of talent. As long as one is refined, there will be a second one. After that, as long as enough refining and diligent practice are done, the success rate will continue to rise. When the success rate of refining a magic tool reaches 30%, it can reach the effect of profitability, and can also be called a weapon refiner. As for the 1 in 50 success rate, it is unknown how long it will take to increase the success rate from 30% to 1 in 50. Ling Yanhong, who was standing by, saw Ling Pengyun's nervousness and encouraged him. You have already started to learn the art of melting instruments and have also learned the sharp spiritual pattern. You just need to be careful when refining the green bamboo sword. With the strength of your spiritual consciousness, these 50 materials are enough to support your success once. Don't be nervous, and calm down. After hearing this, Ling Pengyun's heaviness in his heart was relieved a little. He nodded lightly, and then he sat cross-legged on the futon on the ground, closed his eyes and practiced the art to restore himself to the best state. He first used ordinary iron and the black flame refining furnace. According to the method of refining instruments, he used the art of melting instruments to condense it into a molten iron hoe, and then drove a sharp spiritual pattern into the iron. Although this iron hoe collapsed naturally because it could not withstand the spiritual pattern, Ling Pengyun's confidence also increased a little. If the spiritual pattern was not formed, this ordinary iron hoe would not collapse naturally. Only when the sharp spiritual pattern was formed would this happen. Ling Pengyun bought the remaining ordinary iron from Lingdong, the village chief of Qingshi village, in Ziazi town, 300 miles away. Ling Pengyun took a deep breath, increased his spiritual consciousness and injected it into the flame of the burning wood. His finger techniques kept changing, and he used the fire control technique to suppress the flame that was sometimes large and sometimes small to a balanced size. After the temperature in the refining furnace reached a certain level, Ling Pengyun first threw the Qingshi iron into the refining furnace, melted it into molten iron at high temperature, and purified the impurities in the molten iron. Then he threw the kindling bamboo into it, melted it into bamboo water, and purified the impurities. This step seemed simple, but it actually took half an hour, and consumed nearly 30% of Ling Pengyun's spiritual power. After completing this step, Ling Pengyun's already frowned brows became more frowned, and his face gradually became solemn. He changed his finger techniques and used the method of melting the device to fuse the green bamboo water and the Qingshi iron water together into the shape of a green bamboo sword. However, before the two had been fused for long, they began to repel each other. With a loud bang, the lid of the refining furnace was blown off. His first attempt at refining ended, and he had not even made the water-like substance of the two into the shape of the green bamboo sword, and he had already failed, not to mention that he had also injected the sharp spiritual pattern into the sword. This first failure in refining did not dampen Ling Pengyun's confidence. After all, everything is difficult at the beginning, and there were still 49 spiritual materials for refining the green bamboo sword, and 49 more chances. Chapter 40. Training with a large amount of money. Although his confidence was not affected, Ling Pengyun felt a little sorry for the materials he had just wasted. The 4-foot-long green bamboo and 1 pound of green iron were worth 10 spirit stones on the market. This was equivalent to his salary for a month when he was stationed in Qingshi Mountain. A month's salary was gone just like that. Ling Pengyun sighed lightly, closed his eyes and meditated, thinking about the reason for his failure in the refining process just now. When he felt that he had some confidence, he started to try again. Every time he refined the green bamboo sword twice, his spiritual power would be exhausted. At this time, he would stop and meditate to recover. Ling Yanhong, who had been paying attention to Ling Pengyun's refining, would also give some advice. Just like this: failure, summary, recovery of spiritual energy, failure. After experiencing 43 failures, Ling Pengyun was already a little annoyed. He glanced at the ground and saw that there were only 7 refining materials left, and his heart was in a mess. After a long calm, he calmed down, cheered up, and started refining again. Still, the kindling bamboo and Qingshi iron were melted into water, the impurities were purified, and then melted together using the melting device technique. After the two water-like bodies were fused together under the action of the technique, and turned into one, and turned into the shape of a green bamboo sword, Ling Pengyun frowned, pinched his fingers with both hands, and cast a seal in the refining furnace, melting it into the iron-water green bamboo sword. Sharp spiritual patterns melt. The water-like green bamboo sword flashed with spiritual light, and spiritual charm appeared on its surface. Ling Pengyun noticed the situation in the refining furnace, changed his fingers with both hands, and said in a deep voice, "Condensate?" The next moment, the iron water flying sword made an inexplicable sizzling burning sound. Within 3 breaths, the water-like green bamboo sword turned into a solid body, and a spiritual charm of flashing spiritual light appeared on the sword body, which was the characteristic of the magic weapon. Ling Pengyun realized through his spiritual consciousness that the magic weapon had been completed, and he was ecstatic. Success! He hurriedly opened the cover of the refining furnace, took out the newly refined green bamboo sword, and looked at it carefully, looking like he couldn't let it go. A sense of pride also arose spontaneously. He was not a professional refiner, but a mid-career master. However, after half a year of cramming knowledge, he refined this magic weapon. Ling Yanhong, who had been paying attention to Ling Pengyun's refining, also breathed a sigh of relief at this time. He was more afraid than Ling Pengyun himself that Ling Pengyun would not be able to use the 50 refining materials to refine the green bamboo sword. For Ling Pengyun, the worst thing would be to waste the 6 months of time to comprehend the refining. But for the Ling family, if Ling Pengyun failed, the Ling family would be left with no one to refine magic weapons for the clan members in 20 years, and the family finances would be allocated a large amount to purchase magic weapons from outside to equip the clan members. This is not a good thing for a large foundation-building clan. As the head of the Ling family, he naturally didn't want to see the family in trouble. Moreover, the future of the Ling family could be said to be built by him alone. How could he see a decline? After being happy for a long time, Ling Pengyun remembered that there was another person next to him. He handed the green bamboo sword in his hand to Ling Yanhong, who was standing beside him, and said, "Third ancestor, what do you think of my green bamboo sword?" Ling Yanhong took it, looked at the green bamboo sword carefully, smiled, and said carefully, "After half a year of preparation and 43 failures, you have successfully refined a green bamboo sword. This is enough to show that you have a good understanding. However, you have not refined many magic tools after all, and your control of the fire is not enough. This also caused a lot of impurities in the bamboo water and iron water to remain when you purified them. You need to comprehend the fire control technique more. The process of melting the bamboo water and iron water into the iron water flying sword is too long. This green bamboo sword can barely be used for fighting, but it will definitely break after fighting many times. The 2 aspects of melting the weapon and the spiritual pattern are not bad, but there is still room for improvement. Take a break, there are still 6 materials left, and we will continue to refine the weapon later." Ling Pengyun remembered these words in his heart and nodded. "Okay." Then, Ling Pengyun closed his eyes and carefully recalled the process of refining the weapon just now, so as to find out his own shortcomings and then make up for them. A quarter of an hour later, he opened his eyes and used the remaining materials to continue refining the weapon. In the next 6 times of refining, Ling Pengyun refined another green bamboo sword, but the quality was still so poor, at most it could only be considered as the lowest grade of magic weapon. If it were put on the market, I'm afraid no one would buy it. Even if someone would buy it, at most it would be sold for the cost price of 10 spirit stones, which is far less than the value of an ordinary green bamboo sword. But even so, Ling Pengyun was still happy. He succeeded twice in 50 times of refining, which was beyond his expectations. He believed that as long as there were enough materials to help, he would be able to refine a relatively good middle-grade green bamboo sword. Yes, 50 pieces of refining materials, and 2 successful attempts, are enough to serve as the family's refining seedling. I didn't misjudge you at the beginning. Since you majored in spiritual plants and are also the family's spiritual plant seedling, the family does not plan to send you back to the family, but plans to let you continue to stay in Qingshi Mountain, so that you can rely on spiritual plants to earn spiritual stones in Qingshi Mountain, and also comprehend refining. There are a total of 100 portions of Qingshi sword refining materials in this storage bag, which is your amount this year. At the end of this year, I will ask Uncle 15, who came to Qingshi Mountain to collect mature spiritual plants, to bring you another 100 portions of Qingshi sword refining materials. A total of 2 years for him, a total of 200 portions of Qingshi sword refining materials. The family can only afford 200 portions of Qingshi sword refining materials to support you. Relying on these refining materials, the successfully refined Qingshi sword will also belong to you. I have been in Qingshi Mountain for 25 days, and it is time to return to the family. You can read more about the insights of the Ling family's successive weapon refiners in the Lingxiao Weapon Refining Manual in the future. It will be of great benefit to you. After leaving these words, Ling Yuanhong rode on the immortal Crane King and flew away from the cave. Ling Pengyun looked at the bulging storage bag that he had just received from Ling Yuanhong, and felt inexplicably heavy. The 100 pieces of Qingshi sword refining materials in this storage bag are worth 1,000 spirit stones. Even if the Ling family has planted a lot of Qingling bamboo, one of the 2 spiritual objects for refining Qingshi sword, these Qingling bamboos can still be sold at this price if they are sold. They are all family wealth. 1,000 spirit stones are enough for a 3 spiritual root cultivator with good talent to advance from the first level of key training to the late stage of key training. Not to mention, there will be another 100 pieces of materials for refining Qingshi sword next year. It seems that the family really intends to invest heavily in me and train me to become a weapon refiner to succeed the 8th ancestor. Thinking about this clearly also made Ling Pengyun more stressed. If these 100 materials did not increase his success rate in refining the green bamboo sword, how could he live up to the family's training? I don't know to what extent I can increase the probability of refining the green bamboo sword with the help of these 100 materials. Ling Pengyun sighed. As for his major and spiritual plans, he was confident enough to become a first-class superior spiritual plant master and succeed the family's chief elder Ling Ruxin. But he was just a beginner in refining tools after all, and he was highly valued by the family, which was a lot of pressure. With a long breath, Ling Pengyun pulled himself together, forced the pressure into motivation, closed his eyes, practiced the exercises, refined the remaining Huogaidan medicinal power in his body, and restored the spiritual power consumed by refining tools. Thanks, Yishao's Hene for the monthly ticket and 100 points of reward. Thanks, the rat who steals food, the world in the dream, the god king of Rain Wolf, and Brother Wang, the worker, for the monthly ticket. Chapter 41 Double Happiness. On the other side. After leaving Qingshi Mountain, Ling Yuanhong did not return directly to Lingxiao Mountain, but first went to the Qingshi Lake Zhuanshu mine next to Qingshi Mountain and asked Ling Ruxin, who was stationed in the mine, how much Zhuanshu ore had been mined since the mining of this Zhuanshu iron ore vein in mid-February this year. When Ling Yuanhong learned from Ling Ruxin that more than 6,000 kilograms of Zhuanshu ore had been mined in the past 200 days, he was shocked. After some inquiries, he learned that the 10 human-shaped mining puppets in the early stage of key training given by Bailingman only needed to inject a spiritual stone as energy every month, and they could keep mining, without the need to rest like the monk miners. Moreover, this human-shaped mining puppet was extremely powerful, and the mining speed was not slow at all. One human-shaped mining puppet was enough to match the mining speed of 3 monks in the early stage of key training. 10 human-shaped mining puppets were equivalent to 30 monks in the early stage of key training mining together. This also prompted this puppet to mine more than 30 kilograms of Zhuanshu iron ore every day. The ore vein that originally took 100 years to mine can be mined in less than 10 years. This situation really made Ling Yuanhong sigh at the powerful effect of this mining puppet, and he was also very jealous of the mining puppet with strong mining ability. It's just a pity that the refining method of this mining puppet, including other attack-type puppets, is rarer than the refining method of ordinary magic tools. Even in the vast territory of Yam State, there are not many forces that have the method of refining puppets, and most of these forces only master the method of refining first-level and second-level puppets. The only force that can refine the third-level puppet method, comparable to the jade and cultivator, is the Bailing sect. It is said that the Bailing sect, a large sect that relies on refining tools, has 3 third-level puppets with the combat power of the Jindan period, and even one of these 3 puppets can fight against a Jindan perfection strong man. Uncle 13, it is now the end of August. In more than 3 months, at the end of the year, the people of Bailingman should also send people to take the 5,000 kilograms of ore needed this year. At that time, you can give them 5,000 kilograms of Zhuanshu iron ore, not more or less, so that we don't deliver the 50,000 kilograms of ore needed by Bailingman in advance, and Bailingman will take back these 10 human-shaped mining puppets in advance. Without these 10 puppets, it will be a bit difficult for my Ling family to send people to mine the remaining Zhuanshu iron ore with the current manpower. Ling Yuanhong instructed Ling Ruxin. Ling Ruxin rarely spoke in his daily life, and now he was the same, just saying 2 words. Understood. Uncle 13, this place is left to you. After Ling Yuanhong said this, his figure turned into light and shadow and left the mine. Ling Ruxin also sat cross-legged on the mat on the ground again, and waved his hand to set up a soundproof ban around him to block the ding-ding-ding sound made by the 10 pickaxes in the mind vein. Without these noises, Ling Ruxin felt that the world was a little quieter, and his slightly frowned brows were relaxed. He closed his eyes and sat in meditation. Ling Yanhong, who had found the Zuanshu iron ore vein, did not return to his family immediately. Instead, he rode a fairy crane king and carefully searched the entire Anyang County where the Ling family was located with his divine sense for a long time to check whether there were any undiscovered ore veins or spiritual veins. It was a pity that Ling Yanhong did not gain anything. Ore veins are rare in the world, even rarer than spiritual veins. It is actually quite good that a small Zuanshu iron ore vein can appear in the small Anyang County. Even if there are still mineral veins in Anyang County, there will be a special rock layer on the surface of the mineral veins. Unless you dig 3 feet deep, it is difficult for even a giant cultivator to detect the existence of the underground mineral veins with just the divine sense. Time passed in a flash, and before we knew it, it was the time of the autumnal equinox again. Around the autumnal equinox, it is the time when all kinds of plants mature. More than 3,000 villagers in Qingshi village also set off a grand harvest of 10,000 acres of rice after the autumnal equinox. Although the villagers in the fields were under the scorching sun, facing the loess, and in the sultry rice, they were covered in sweat, and even their clothes were soaked, but no one had any complaints, but instead revealed a kind of joy that was difficult to hide on their faces. Every time they harvested an acre of rice field, they felt more joy in their hearts. This may seem to be just rice, but it is the harvest of their hard work for a year, and it is also the source of money to improve their family life in the next year. Because the rice fields have nearly doubled compared to last year, the time spent harvesting 10,000 mu of rice fields has also doubled. It was not until mid-October that this massive harvest of 10,000 mu of rice was completed. On the day of the end, Qingshi village also held a grand harvest banquet. The meat in the banquet was still provided by the hundreds of Lingxiao guards in Qingshi village who hunted wild animals. Only the rice and vegetables, which were not particularly valuable, were provided by the villagers. On the night of this day, Ling Pengyun, who was stationed in Qingshi Mountain, also had a happy face. Today is really a double happiness. Not only did I refine a green bamboo sword again after a lapse of 33 days, but I also failed 32 times. After 4 years, I finally comprehended the second level of Lingxiao's ripening technique. Now I just need to wait for my life-giving spiritual plant, the thorn vine, to be promoted to the middle stage of key training, and then my spiritual plant grade can be promoted to the first grade middle grade. He failed 43 times in the first attempt to refine the green bamboo sword before he succeeded once. Now, after 32 failures, he has refined a green bamboo sword again. This progress is not small, and it also allows Ling Pengyun to see that he can accomplish what Ling Yanhong expected and increase the success rate of refining the green bamboo sword to 30%. If the grade of the spiritual plant is to be improved, 2 hard conditions are required. One is that the spiritual plant's secret technique is promoted to the corresponding grade. The second is that the life-giving spiritual plant is promoted to the corresponding grade. Both are indispensable. According to the speed at which I am using my own spiritual power to nourish the thorn vines and help them grow, I estimate that they will be able to reach the middle stage of key training in June or July next year. But by then, I still have to suppress them. I can't rush to break through the spiritual plant grade and forget what I have already imagined. According to what Ling Pengyun had imagined, he planned to let the thorn vines advance from the early stage of key training to the middle stage of key training, and suppress him after his cultivation broke through the 6th level of key training. In this way, he could use the large amount of spiritual power from the breakthrough of the thorn vines to break through the bottleneck between the 6th and 7th levels of key training, which is known as the most difficult bottleneck to break through in the key training realm. This title of the most difficult bottleneck is also based on facts. In the Ling clan alone, there are no less than 10 members of the 6th level of key training who are trapped in this bottleneck, and it is difficult for them to break through to the late stage of key training and obtain doubled offerings. The things that are praised by everyone are probably based on facts. Ling Pengyun naturally also has some respect for the bottleneck between the 6th and 7th levels of key training. Therefore, he planned to use the magical effect of his own spiritual plant to feed back his spiritual power, and to be clever and overcome the bottleneck that is said to be the most difficult in the key training period. Now, my time is extremely tight. According to my current progress in cultivation, even if I practice every day with the help of elixirs, I am afraid that it will take at least 3 years for me to break through from the 5th level of key training to the 6th level. If you want to progress faster in cultivation, unless you squeeze out more time for cultivation, you can only start with cultivation resources. It is naturally impossible to squeeze out time, and his daily schedule is extremely tight. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 42: Buying Spiritual Fruits. Even since he passed Ling Ruda's refining test a month ago and refined the green bamboo sword, and was given 100 refining materials by Ling Yunhong, he could only squeeze out the 1 hour of time needed to refine the green bamboo sword once a day from his practice. The reason why he only refined the green bamboo sword once a day was that if he refined the green bamboo sword twice a day, he would only have about 1 hour of practice time left every day if he left aside the rest of his schedule. This time was not enough for Ling Pengyun to run 3 big cycles, and the amount of practice he could improve was even less. Since it was difficult to start with time, he could only start with practice resources. Without thinking too much, Ling Pengyun found a better spiritual object for practice than the yellow bud pill. That was the spirit fruit. The spiritual power contained in the spirit fruit was gentle, pure, and free of impurities. After swallowing it, it was 3 times faster than taking the yellow bud pill for practice. This spiritual fruit is good, but it's too expensive. Ling Pengyun felt something in his heart and said helplessly. Then, he calculated how many spiritual stones there were in the storage bag. After this calculation, Ling Pengyun felt much better. There were a total of 261 spiritual stones. The next day, early in the morning, Ling Pengyun packed up all the affairs in Qingshi Mountain. He first went to Qingshi village and told the village chief Ling Dong that he was about to leave. He asked him, a warrior in the perfect innate realm, to patrol the surrounding areas of Qingshi Mountain more often in the near future to prevent wild beasts from attacking the village. Afterwards, he went to the mineral vein in the dark river of Qingshi Lake and found Ling Ruxin, who was stationed in the mineral vein. He told Ling Ruxin that he would be away for a day and go to the Yunwu market in Pingyun County next door to buy some things. He asked Ling Ruxin to pay more attention to the affairs of Qingshi village to prevent the appearance of key training monsters that were difficult for the Lingxiao guards composed of hundreds of acquired and innate realms to deal with. The blue-scaled demon python caused chaos in Qingshi village, but it was bloody and painful. This was because the blue-scaled demon python was not a ferocious monster. It just hunted human beings for food. Among the monsters, there were many monsters that loved killing in blood. If such a monster breaks into Qingshi village, it is likely that the village will be destroyed. Now that there is a powerful elder next to him, Ling Pengyun naturally has to add another protective fence for the safety of the villagers of Qingshi village. After running thousands of miles, at night, Ling Pengyun finally entered the Yunwu market. The first thing he did was to go to the Lingxiao rice hall opened by his family. Ling Rushu, the lonely old man who manages this shop, saw Ling Pengyun coming again after more than a year. Although he was happy in his heart, he did not give Ling Pengyun a good face, but complained to Ling Pengyun. Pengyun, you discovered the mineral vein, you are rich, so you look down on this old man. It's been a year, and you only think of coming to see me, an old man. This scene also made Ling Pengyun very sad. He secretly swore in his heart that in the remaining 3 years of his garrison in Qingshi Mountain, he would come here every 6 months to visit this lonely old man Ling Rushu, who is like his own great-grandfather. Ling Pengyun apologized and explained to Ling Rushu that he had been concentrating on refining tools recently, which delayed his visit to this old man. The family asked you to practice both spiritual plants and refining tools. Ling Rushu was shocked when he heard what Ling Pengyun said. Ling Rushu was in the Yunwu market and had very little contact with the clan members. He only had the opportunity to talk to the clan members when the clan sent people to the rice hall to replenish spiritual objects at the beginning of the year. Moreover, Ling Pengyun's becoming a reserve seedling for refining tools was decided in February this year, and he officially became a seedling for refining tools at the end of August this year. The top leaders of the Ling family did not publicize this matter. Not to mention Ling Rushu, who was thousands of miles away from Lingxiao Mountain, Even the clan members who had been in the clan for many years did not know about it. It is not a good thing to publicize the emergence of talents in the clan. Although the 5 major foundation-building families in Huaishu County are on the same front and seem to be close and flawless, they can't stand each other living too well. If there is a chance on weekdays, let alone killing the other family's foundation-building seedling, even if there is a chance to kill a cultivator of another family with 3 or 4 spiritual roots, they will kill without mercy, not to mention Ling Pengyun, who has mastered 200 arts. The family's talents are dwindling. This is also a helpless move. Ling Pengyun explained briefly. It is true that the talents are dwindling, but as far as I know, if you want to officially become a family refiner, you need to refine a magic weapon. Have you refined any magic weapon? Ling Rushu asked curiously. Of course, 15th great-grandfather, please look at this sword. Although I have refined this green bamboo sword, my refining level is not high, and the quality of this green bamboo sword is also the worst. Ling Pengyun patted the storage bag on his waist, took out a green bamboo sword he refined, and handed it to Ling Rushu. Ling Rushu was shocked when he saw the green bamboo sword flashing with spiritual charm in his hand. In just 1 year, Ling Pengyun had successfully refined a magic weapon from no knowledge of refining. Even if the magic weapon he refined was indeed the worst quality, it was still a magic weapon. As long as the price was right, there would be casual cultivators with limited money to buy it. Although the quality of this green bamboo sword is not good, it is already good for someone like you who has just entered the art of refining. In just over half a year, you can enter the art of refining, which means that the family has not misjudged you. The family really needs a young refiner to replace Yunnan and refine for the family. Pengyun, work harder. Ling Rushu has been engaged in the business of running a shop for decades. He has some contact with any spiritual objects. The shop he managed before was the miscellaneous goods hall in Yunshu Market. The word miscellaneous goods means that there are all kinds of spiritual objects. Therefore, he could see the quality of the green bamboo sword at a glance. 15th great-grandfather, I understand. This time I brought this green bamboo sword to ask you if I can put this quality green bamboo sword in the rice hall you manage for sale. Ling Pengyun asked. Yes, but this quality green bamboo sword can only be sold at the cost price of 10 spirit stones at most. Can you accept it? Ling Rushu said. Of course, 15th great-grandfather, I still have 2 swords, so let's put them in the rice hall for sale. Ling Pengyun said. Okay, this time, in addition to selling green bamboo swords, your main purpose is to buy cultivation resources. Ling Rushu said unhappily. Sure enough, I can't hide it from the discerning eyes of the 15th great-grandfather. Ling Pengyun said. This time I plan to buy 21st grade medium quality spiritual fruits and a 1st grade low quality flying magic weapon called Green Leaf from the Yunwu 100 Weapons Hall. With this green leaf that can travel 1,500 miles a day, I can save some time when I go on a long trip, and it will be more convenient for me to visit you. However, I want my 15th great-grandfather to buy these spiritual objects, so that I won't be targeted by thieves. As for the flying magic weapon, it was something Ling Pengyun had wanted to buy for a long time. But he has been too busy recently, and it is difficult to spare time to buy it in the Yunwu market. The reason why he only bought a 1st grade low quality flying magic weapon instead of a 1st grade medium quality flying magic weapon that is equivalent to his cultivation level is also very simple: too expensive. Ling Rushu was not surprised that Ling Pengyun was so rich. He knew that Ling Pengyun's parents would send a lot of spiritual stones back to the family every year. Ling Pengyun himself is also a spiritual plant husband. It is normal for him to have such wealth. He joked. I didn't realize you were so cautious. It's easy to buy the green leaves from Yunwu Baikadang, but this spiritual fruit is a rare thing. Even if my Ling family is good at growing spiritual plants and opened a store here, only 5 green peaches will flow out every year, not to mention the other 4. The weaker 1st grade low-grade spiritual fruits should be more in quantity. Do you need them? Ling Pengyun frowned when he heard the answer and thought about the effects of the 1st grade low-grade spiritual fruits. The effects of the 1st grade low-grade spiritual fruits are the same as those of the same grade key training pills, but because they are naturally nurtured fruits, the spiritual energy contained in the flesh is extremely pure, gentle, and free of impurities. They are usually much better than key training pills and are more expensive than key training pills. The market price is generally 3 spiritual stones per fruit. After 3 breaths, he spoke. If there are not enough 1st grade medium quality spiritual fruits, then buy more first-grade low-quality spiritual fruits. Then, he looked at the door of the store and saw that there was no one outside the store. He took out 200 spiritual stones from the storage bag on his waist and handed them to Ling Rushu. After Ling Rushu took the spiritual stones, he first deducted 40 spiritual stones and gave Ling Pengyun the 5 first-grade medium-quality and 5 first-grade low-quality green peaches sent by the Mitang family at the beginning of this year. Then he left this Lingxiao Maturation and went to the other 4 shops in the market to buy spiritual objects for Ling Pengyun. As for Ling Pengyun, he stayed in Lingxiao Maturation and waited, and helped to look after the store and entertain guests. In less than half an instant stick of time, Ling Rushu returned to Mitang. The other 4 shops in this market only have 3 first-level medium-quality and 5 first-level low-quality spiritual fruits. I saw that after buying the green leaf magic weapon, there were still a lot of spiritual stones left, so I bought them all. Since there was no discount, I still bought them at the original price, which cost me 132 spiritual stones. The flying magic weapon I bought was the green leaf you mentioned, which cost me 50 spiritual stones. I still have 18 spiritual stones left from the 200 spiritual stones. Ling Rushu closed the door of the shop, summoned 32 jade boxes, a green leaf the size of a palm, and 18 spiritual stones from the storage bag, and handed them to Ling Pengyun using the object control technique. Hearing the number of spiritual fruits Ling Rushu bought this time, Ling Pengyun looked happy. This number of spiritual fruits is enough for him to practice for a long time. Chapter 43 When Xian runs jealousy. 15th great-grandfather, thank you for your help. Ling Pengyun thanked him, and then waved his hand to put the 32 jade boxes containing spiritual fruits and the green leaf with sparkling spiritual charm floating in front of him into the storage bag. No problem, just like last year, stay for a day before leaving. Ling Rushu asked with a bit of expectation in his eyes. Okay. Ling Pengyun naturally understood Ling Rushu's little thoughts and agreed with a smile. That night, Ling Rushu and Ling Pengyun chatted all night as usual. Ling Pengyun told the lonely old man Ling Rushu about the Moan venomous snake, blue-scaled demon python, and Zuanshu iron ore vein that he had encountered recently. As a listener, Ling Rushu was also shocked when he heard about the Moan venomous snake and the blue-scaled demon python, and was worried about Ling Pengyun. When he heard the details of the discovery of the Zuanshu iron ore vein, he was happy for him and secretly sighed that Xiao Pengyun had a great opportunity. During the chat, time is always short. In the early morning, while Ling Rushu was making breakfast, Ling Pengyun took the opportunity to absorb the power of the early sun for a while. After breakfast, he went to King's Yufu Pavilion to replenish the spiritual talismans he had consumed some time ago. He bought a total of 5 rocket talismans and 5 shield talismans, spending 40 spiritual stones. This also reduced a large amount of spiritual stones from Ling Pengyun's bulging storage bag, which was about to run out of money, which really made Ling Pengyun feel distressed for a while. After returning to the rice hall to say goodbye to Ling Rushu, Ling Pengyun took advantage of the early morning when there were not many people in the market and quietly left the Yunwu market where there were few casual cultivators walking around. Ling Rushu stood alone at the door of Lingxiao Maturation, staring blankly at the entrance and exit of the market. After a long time, he came back to his senses, looking lonely, muttering to himself. Let Xiao Pengyun accompany me for 3 years. When his 5-year mission to guard Qingshi Mountain is over, I, an old man, should also return to the mountain to enjoy a peaceful life. After saying this, he returned to the shop. Shen Hu was born in the mortal world. Because he had spiritual roots, he was found by a nearly 100-year-old casual cultivator in the middle stage of key training by chance. The 100-year-old casual cultivator was old, so he had the idea to accept Shen Hu as his apprentice and gave Shen Hu a book of key training method Golden Spirit Secret. And for a period of time afterwards, he taught Shen Hu to practice carefully. When Shen Hu was 20 years old, when Shen Hu was in the 2nd level of key training, his master's lifespan was exhausted. Shen Hu thus became a single person. As a great power, he was naturally unwilling to return to the ordinary. With a long-cherished wish of his master when he was about to die, Shen Hu began to venture into the world of immortal cultivation alone. As a casual cultivator with a low level of cultivation, he was naturally targeted by many casual cultivators and even demon cultivators. Fortunately, when his master was dying, he left Shen Hu a lot of powerful magic tools and talismans. With the help of these spiritual objects, Shen Hu also safely resolved the crisis time and time again, and even killed those who wanted to kill him. After enjoying the wealth obtained by killing a monk, Shen Hu also realized the meaning of the golden belt of killing and arson. Gradually, he often engaged in the business of interception and killing. In these years, when he was alone in the world of immortal cultivation, there were at least 20 casual cultivators who died at his hands. The wealth obtained by killing these cultivators also pushed his cultivation to the 6th level of key training, and he was stuck in the most difficult bottleneck of the key training realm, the 7th level of key training. In order to break through this bottleneck as soon as possible, Shen Hu also came from other counties to Huaishu County, where Balingman had just opened up and many monsters remained, a few years ago. He relied on hunting monsters or intercepting monks to earn wealth and raise spiritual stones to buy barrier-breaking pills. But unfortunately, the price of this barrier-breaking pill was too expensive. In addition, he was originally engaged in hunting monsters, and he would often get injured, so it was inevitable that he needed to buy some healing pills. As a result, he had not saved many spiritual stones in these years, and could only barely make enough spiritual stones for normal cultivation. One day, Shen Hu came to Yunwu Market early, wanting to sell the flesh and blood of a monster in the middle stage of key training that he had killed not long ago to earn some spiritual stones, but a good thing happened to him. A communication talisman flew from outside the market to Shen Hu, who had just set up a stall on both sides of the Yunwu Market Avenue. Shen Hu was very confused when he saw the sudden appearance of the communication talisman. What friends did he have in Yunwu Market? Who would send him a message? He waved his hand to take the communication talisman in his hand, and carefully looked at what was written on the communication talisman. He was shocked. This communication talisman detailed the various spiritual objects that Ling Pengyun, who had just left Yunwu Market, bought in Yunwu Market, and Ling Pengyun's identity as a member of the Ling family. The communication talisman appeared suddenly. Shen Hu, who had been in the world of immortal cultivation for a long time and knew that this world of immortal cultivation was dangerous, naturally did not dare to believe it easily. But this person who seemed to be a fat sheep appeared next to him, and he did not intend to miss it. In order to verify whether the things written on the communication talisman were correct, he put away the flesh and blood of a mid-stage key training monster that had just been placed on the stall, and went to 5 shops in the market respectively, pretending to buy spiritual fruits in the shops, and went to the Yunwu refining hall to buy green leaves, but found out that there were none. And when he remembered that Ling Pengyun, who had just left the market, was indeed from Lingxiao Rice Hall, this also made Shen Hu believe that what was written in the communication talisman was true. That Ling Pengyun actually has a fat sheep, all thanks to this communication talisman. I don't know who gave the order. But if I can kill Ling Pengyun this time and get his property, I will be able to save enough spirit stones to buy the barrier-breaking pill, and then rely on this pill to break through to the late stage of key training. Then, whether I become a guest official of those shitty families or continue to live the life of a casual cultivator, it will be much better. Shen Hu was secretly delighted, and quickly ran out of the Yunwu Market, chasing in the direction where Ling Pengyun left. At the entrance of Yunwu Market, when Xianrun, a late-stage key training cultivator who has been stationed here for many years, saw Shen Hu leaving the market and chasing in the direction of Ling Pengyun of the Ling family, and a sneer appeared on his face. It's okay for this Ling family kid to come to our Wen family's Yunwu Market to buy spiritual objects for the first time, but he bought so many spiritual objects for the second time. He wants to use our Wen family to buy spiritual objects to improve his cultivation. He is really dreaming. It's good that Ling Pengyun died. Now there are more potential members in the Ling family. A jealous look appeared on his face. Just now, the communication talisman in Shen Hu's hand was sent by him. And Shen Hu will also become a weapon for him to achieve his goal. The Yunwu Wen family, whose members are in a short period of time, is obviously different from the Lingxiao Ling family, which has a double spiritual root Ling Pengsing. In fact, the Ling family discovered a small Zuanshu iron ore vein some time ago. Through this incident, the family's foundation has been strengthened. There is also a young member in the family, Ling Pengsing, who has a high success rate in breaking through the foundation. No matter how you look at it, the Ling family will go further and further in this world of cultivation. On the other hand, the Wen family is in a terrible state, and there is no obvious genius in cultivation. Anyang County, where the Ling clan is located, is next to Pingan County, where the Yunwu Wen clan is located. It is possible that after 100 years, the Yunwu Wen clan will decline and no more foundation-building cultivators will appear. The Ling clan, which still has another foundation-building cultivator, will be the first to attack the neighboring Wen clan. Wen Xianren will naturally not let go of any opportunity to kill a talented member of the Ling clan. Chapter 44 Demonic Cultivation. It was noon. Ling Pengyun, who had left Yanwu Market and rushed for hundreds of miles, smelled a very strong smell of blood coming from the front after a breeze blew. His brows immediately frowned, and he took a deep breath of bloody air, muttering to himself. This smell of blood doesn't seem to be from a monster. Could it be human blood? Although monsters and humans have blood, the taste of blood is different. Just like peaches and oranges, although they are both fruits, the taste is still somewhat different. If I remember correctly, there should be a village in the front more than 10 miles where the ordinary people of Yunwuan clan live. Ling Pengyun had watched the village from afar 3 times during his trip to Yunwu Market. If this return is smooth, he will be able to see it for the 4th time. However, every time he passed by that village, Ling Pengyun would bypass the village from afar and walk to some places where few people go in order to avoid unnecessary trouble with the Wen clan monks who were guarding the village. Are there bloodthirsty monsters attacking the village? Ling Pengyun guessed secretly. The bloodthirsty monster attacked the village. This was a very scary thing. If the Wen family cultivators stationed in that village were defeated, the village of the Wen family's ordinary people would probably be left with no one alive. As for going to help, Ling Pengyun had never thought about it. The village was not Ling's, so what did he, a member of the Ling family, have to do with it? If he was put in danger because of these troublesome things, it would be bad. Ling Pengyun threw these messes aside and was about to bypass the Wen family's ordinary village and continue to return to Qingshi Mountain when he saw 2 black shadows rushing towards him from a few miles ahead. To be precise, they were rushing towards the Yunwu market behind Ling Pengyun. Ling Pengyun's eyes narrowed and he used the Zonqi technique to increase his vision. Only then did he see the 2 black shadows, one fleeing and one chasing. The distance between the 2 was about half a mile, but as time went on, the distance between the 2 was gradually shortening. The fleeing man was wearing a Wen clan robe, most likely a member of the Yunwu Wen clan. He seemed to have been blessed with a light body technique, and his speed was quite fast. The pursuer was dressed a little strangely, wearing a black robe in broad daylight, and actually controlled a small black flying boat, which was twice as fast as the Wen clan cultivator. It was afraid that it would not be long before the Wen clan cultivator would be caught up by the black-clothed man. With a blessing of the key-seeking technique, Ling Pengyun saw that the black-clothed man who was chasing the Wen clan a few miles away, the black flying boat he was controlling under his feet, and the black flag he was holding were emitting a trace of black spiritual energy. Seeing this scene, his pupils shrank slightly, and he was shocked and said to himself, "Is that demonic energy? Only the magic weapons that demon cultivators have refined through bloody methods will emit demonic energy. Ordinary magic weapons emit spiritual energy. In the world of immortal cultivation, ordinary cultivators rarely have demonic weapons, and it is rare for righteous cultivators to own 2 demonic weapons at the same time. Furthermore, the man who controlled the magic weapon flying boat appeared in broad daylight in black clothes and veil, which was very strange. This person is most likely a magic cultivator," Ling Pengyun quickly concluded. With this idea, Ling Pengyun's heart trembled. The name of the magic cultivator is very famous in the world of immortal cultivation. In addition to the bloody reputation of the magic cultivator using the souls and blood of mortals and cultivators to sacrifice magic weapons, the fact that the magic cultivator is extremely powerful is also known to everyone. According to the elders of the Ling family, the magic cultivator is powerful, with various means emerging one after another, and the magic weapons in the hands of the magic cultivator are much more powerful than ordinary magic weapons. Basically, the magic cultivators who have a magic weapon are those who are more outstanding in the same level. If they have multiple magic weapons, their combat power must be the top level of the same level, enough to kill the enemy across levels. Without this strength, how can they obtain multiple magic weapons by sacrificing mortals and cultivators? Mortals can be said to be a kind of resource. They will give birth to children with spiritual roots. Where there are mortals, they are generally protected by strength. When encountering a demon cultivator with a variety of magic weapons, according to the instructions of the elders of the Ling family, escape as soon as possible. The flying boat under the feet of the demon cultivator and the magic banner in his hand have obvious and strong magic energy. They are probably first-level mid-grade magic weapons. Through the magic weapon, Ling Pengyun can naturally guess the approximate cultivation level of the demon cultivator. At least a demon cultivator in the middle stage of key training. Ling Pengyun shuddered, without thinking, and hurriedly turned around, heading towards the direction of Yunwu Market, and ran away. There was no one within 100 miles. Only in the Yunwu Market 100 miles away, there were traces of cultivators, and there were also late-stage key training cultivators from the Wen family stationed there. As long as you escape to that location, you will definitely be extremely safe. As for asking for help, Ling Pengyun didn't even think about it. This was the territory of the Yunwu Wen clan. How could there be Ling clan members here in normal times? Ling Rushu, the only Ling clan member within 1,000 miles, was nearly 100 years old and his cultivation had begun to decline. His strength was probably only 70% of that of a full-time member, which was equivalent to the strength of the 4th or 5th level of key training at most. This strength was not much different from Ling Pengyun himself. Sending a communication talisman to ask for help from Ling Rushu, and let Ling Rushu also come to die? Ling Pengyun was not such an unjust person. He didn't want to drag his elders to die. Not long after Ling Pengyun turned around and fled, a few miles behind him, the Yunwu Wen clan cultivator who was being chased by the demon cultivator also noticed Ling Pengyun's existence. This person seemed to have found a savior, and used the sound enhancement technique to shout for help to Ling Pengyun. Fellow Taoist in front, I am a member of the Yunwu Wen clan. The person chasing me is a demon cultivator in the middle stage of key training. As long as you join forces with me, we can completely resist one or two of them. Just wait for the elder of my family in the late stage of key training in the Yunwu market to come to support, and I will definitely reward you handsomely. The demon cultivator chasing the Wen clan cultivator heard these words and used the pupil technique to see Ling Pengyun's existence. His eyes flashed red and the speed of the magic bolt was increased by a few points. Ling Pengyun directly threw the words of seeking help behind his head. He was several miles away from the demon cultivator behind him. He was very confident that he could escape, and there was no need to wade into this muddy water. It only took half a cup of tea. The demon cultivator who was driving the magic weapon flying boat several miles behind Ling Pengyun took advantage of the speed and caught up with the Wen clan cultivator who was traveling on foot. The two started a fierce battle, but before they had fought for 100 breaths, the Wen family cultivator, who was also in the middle stage of key training, was besieged and killed by the 9 evil ghosts summoned by the magic banner in the hands of the demon cultivator. The soul of the Wen family cultivator was also sucked into the magic banner in the hands of the demon cultivator. The demon cultivator looked at the magic banner in his hand and said to himself with joy, I finally killed this Wen family cultivator in the middle stage of key training. I just need to find an opportunity to use the magic banner to refine his soul. This soul will surely become the 10th evil ghost in the middle stage of key training in my 10 ghost banners, and my evil ghost banner will also reach perfection. In the future, as long as I find a mortal village and use the souls of 1,000 mortals to refine these 10 ghost banners, I will definitely be able to make its realm a first-class upper-grade 100 ghost banner. By then, I'm afraid that even cultivators at the 7th or 8th level of key training can be destroyed by me with a wave of my hand. The demon cultivator laughed wildly and looked at Ling Pengyun, who was getting farther away several miles away. This person's cultivation is only in the middle stage of key training, and it seems that he has no flying magic weapon. It will be easy for me to kill him. If I can get help from his soul, I can also prepare for the upgrading of my magic banner to the 100 Ghosts banner. Calculating the time, it should take some time for the late-stage key training cultivator of the Wen family in the Yunwu market to get here. There's enough time to kill this person. After making up his mind, his eyes flashed scarlet, and he drove the magic boat under his feet to chase Ling Pengyun in the distance. Chapter 45 Temporary Alliance. While fleeing, Ling Pengyun noticed that the demon cultivator was chasing him from behind, and he felt extremely helpless. Fortunately, when the demon cultivator and the Wen family cultivator were fighting, I had pulled away from them. The demon cultivator should be about 5 miles away from me, which gives me some hope of escaping. I hope that the late-stage key training expert of the Wen family stationed in Yunwu market mentioned by the Wen family cultivator can arrive in time. If not, once the demon cultivator catches up, I can only use that thing. Ling Pengyun's expression was slightly ruthless, and he made up his mind secretly. Not long after, when Ling Pengyun rushed out of a dense jungle on the way back to Yunwu market, seeing a sturdy cultivator passing by like him rushing towards him, he kindly used the sound enhancement technique to warn the other party loudly, so as not to let this person die in vain at the hands of the demon cultivator. The fellow Taoist in front, don't go ahead. There's a brutal demon cultivator driving a flying boat chasing me a few miles behind me. Escape to Yunwu Market quickly, maybe you can escape. This strong man is Shen Hu, who was chasing Ling Pengyun from Yunwu Market. However, Ling Pengyun didn't know and thought he was a passing cultivator. Shen Hu was slightly stunned when he heard this. Seeing that Ling Pengyun, who had left Yunwu Market, was now returning to Yunwu Market, this strange behavior also made Shen Hu suspicious. He used the key sighting technique to look at the dense jungle behind Ling Pengyun, but he didn't see the demon cultivator that Ling Pengyun mentioned, not even a shadow. Shen Hu, who has been in the world of immortal cultivation for half his life, was more suspicious at this time, but when he thought about the spiritual object worth hundreds of spiritual stones on Ling Pengyun who was running towards him, his doubts immediately dissipated. This is more than what I have earned in the past few years. Shen Hu's expression gradually became hot, and he made up his mind not to worry about so much. Little did he know that Ling Pengyun's warning was actually true. And because the demon cultivator was far away and was still in the dense jungle, his body was blocked by countless huge trees, so it was naturally difficult to see the demon cultivator. Shen Hu took another step. This time he directly took out a golden flying sword, and in the process of rushing, he directly hit the golden flying sword at Ling Pengyun who was rushing in the same way. Ling Pengyun saw that the unknown casual cultivator suddenly attacked him and cursed inwardly. What the hell? I saved him out of kindness, so he didn't run away, but he planned to kill me. Forced by the attack of the golden flying sword, Ling Pengyun had to slap the storage bag on his waist, took out the black iron shield from it, held it tightly in his left hand, and blocked it in front of him. Zhang. The golden flying sword hit the black iron shield, making a sound of iron hitting. Although the flying sword was blocked by the black iron shield, the impact of the flying sword hitting the black iron shield was transmitted to Ling Pengyun's left arm. In order to prevent his left arm from being broken by the huge force, Ling Pengyun had to stop his rushing steps and step back a few steps to relieve the force. Ling Pengyun glared at the murderous and strong man Shen Hu, who was rushing towards him and cursed. There is really a demon cultivator. If you want to die, I don't want to accompany you. Shen Hu had long been overwhelmed by greed. The prey he had been tracking for hundreds of miles was right in front of him. He didn't intend to give it up. The corners of his mouth slightly grinned, revealing a cruel smile on his face. He casually slapped his storage bag and summoned an inconspicuous and extremely fine long needle from it. He waved it towards Ling Pengyun not far away, intending to sneak attack him to death. But Shen Hu obviously underestimated the strength of Ling Pengyun's spiritual consciousness. Ling Pengyun noticed it as early as when Shen Hu shot the long needle. Long needles are best at breaking armor, and Ling Pengyun is very afraid of this. He quickly took out a water shield talisman from his storage bag and cast it. This talisman was not used to defend against the long needles, but to resist the golden flying sword that had been attacking him. He held the black iron shield that he had escaped from horizontally in front of him and blocked the flying needles. Ling. The long needle hit the black iron shield, making a crisp sound. Although the long needle was blocked, it was indeed a sharp weapon for breaking the barrier. Even the black iron shield, which was comparable to a first-level medium-grade defensive magic weapon, was hit by the long needle and a small dent was made. However, Ling Pengyun, who resisted this attack, did not show any joy. Although there were jackals in front, there was a more terrifying tiger and leopard behind. Once he was dragged down by the strong man, the demon cultivator behind him would definitely catch up. At that time, the situation would be dangerous. However, this danger was not just for him. Today, I can't avoid fighting with the demon cultivator. When the demon cultivator catches up, I want to see what this cultivator will do. Ling Pengyun sneered. Just now, when the casual cultivator Shen Hu heard the news about the demon cultivator, he froze in his place. Ling Pengyun saw it. It was obvious that this person was not the helper of the demon cultivator, but simply did not believe him. Or, this casual cultivator was the kind of evil cultivator who specialized in robbing people and had set his eyes on a fat sheep like him. Ling Pengyun did not want to be an enemy of this casual cultivator, but that did not mean that he was a lamb to be slaughtered, so he would not surrender. He exerted force with his left hand and swung the black iron shield hard, throwing away the long needle that was deeply embedded in the shield. Then he waved his hand and slapped the storage bag, took out the black iron sword, and threw it out, fighting with a golden flying sword that attacked the water shield. Although Shen Hu's cultivation was at the 6th level of key training and his strength was stronger than Ling Pengyun, it was difficult to determine the winner in a short time, and they just used flying swords to fight each other. During this fight, the demon cultivator who was several miles away from Ling Pengyun caught up. When he saw that Ling Pengyun, whom he was chasing, was fighting with another cultivator and was stopped, he was delighted. I didn't expect to get an unexpected reward. The demon cultivator looked at Shen Hu with a cruel smile on his face. Shen Hu, who was fighting fiercely with Ling Pengyun, also saw a figure appearing in the dense forest behind Ling Pengyun at this time. He was shocked and used the Qighuan technique to see that the flying boat under the feet of the figure and the long banner in his hand were all emitting traces of demonic energy. He immediately exclaimed, "Magic flying boat, magic banner? Demon cultivator." Ling Pengyun sneered when he heard the movement. "I thought you were not afraid of demon cultivators." When Shen Hu heard this, his cheeks suddenly became hot and he felt ashamed. Even though he was very angry at this time, he did not dare to kill Ling Pengyun at this moment. "Dao, I was reckless just now. I hope you won't blame me. That demon cultivator has a magic flying boat and is very close to us. Even if we escape separately, we will probably be caught up. How about we join forces and try?" Shen Hu, as a casual cultivator who makes a living by killing, naturally guessed the strength of the pursuing demon cultivator and made a decision at the first time. If the demon cultivator was weak, how could Ling Pengyun, who was not much weaker than him, escape? Moreover, this demon cultivator not only stepped on the magic flying boat, but also held a magic banner. It was obvious that he was a powerful person. The demon cultivator was only 1 mile away from here. If he fled directly, he would have little chance of survival and would definitely be defeated by the demon cultivator one by one. But if there was someone who could hold the demon cultivator for some time... Haha. Okay. Ling Pengyun had already guessed that the casual cultivator would behave like this. He sneered and agreed. In this case, forming an alliance is indeed the only way. Chapter 46, Joining Forces to Slay the Demon. After these 2 words, the two quickly formed an alliance, and the distance between them also moved closer, forming a united front. Although they formed an alliance, the two were still wary of each other, and there was a distance of more than 10 feet between them. Ling Pengyun kept pinching his fingers to cast spells, first summoning 2 water shields, and together with the water shield summoned by the talisman before, defending his body. Then, he cast an attack spell, summoning a full 5 water spikes and 3 water arrows. Meanwhile, Shen Hu on the other side also took back the flying needles that Ling Pengyun had thrown away with a black iron shield, injected spiritual power, and was ready to shoot at any time. At the same time, he also pinched his fingers to cast spells like Ling Pengyun. But the speed at which he cast spells was not as fast as Ling Pengyun. When he noticed that Ling Pengyun, who was not far away, was covered with spells, his expression was suddenly shocked, and he muttered to himself, "Could this person be a magic cultivator? It seems that this person had a backup plan when fighting with me just now." He sighed, and quickly came to his senses, and cast spells on his own, waiting for the demon cultivator who was about to kill him. A distance of 1 mile was only 20 breaths for the demon cultivator with a magic weapon flying boat. When the demon cultivator approached Ling Pengyun and Shen Hu within 100 feet, the two of them also launched the attacks they had prepared long ago. The black iron sword, the golden flying sword, and more than 10 spells were all bombarded at the demon cultivator on the magic weapon flying boat dozens of feet away. The demon cultivator had already seen Ling Pengyun and the others cast spells before. When those spells came, he jumped off the magic boat at the first time, put away the flying boat, and freed his spiritual consciousness to attack. As soon as he landed on the ground, he quickly swung out a magic weapon round shield to block in front of him, and at the same time waved the magic banner in his hand, releasing the 9 evil ghosts in the middle stage of key training in the magic banner. 5 of them attacked Shen Hu, who had a stronger cultivation, and 4 attacked Ling Pengyun, who had a weaker cultivation. The magic round shield in the demon cultivator's hand had a very strong defense. It withstood more than 10 spell attacks that Ling Pengyun and Shen Hu had prepared for a long time, and it was not damaged too much. There were only a few cracks on the surface of the shield. But this situation was seen by the demon cultivator, and he looked furious. If you want to repair the cracks on this round shield, it would be difficult to do it without a cultivator in the middle stage of key training covered in blood. He wanted to kill the two people more, and he didn't hold back. He slapped the storage bag on his waist and summoned a blood-red long shuttle from it. As soon as the long shuttle was taken out, it was shut out and turned into a red light and shadow, killing Shenhu, who had a stronger cultivation. Shenhu had taken out a magic shield to resist when the 5 evil ghosts attacked. However, this magic shield was full of cracks, and it was obviously an old object. Under the bombardment of the 5 evil spirits in the middle stage of key training and the blood-red shuttle, the cracks on the magic shield continued to increase, and Shenhu's face became darker and darker. On the other side, Ling Pengyun's situation was not good at this time. Although the strength of the 4 evil spirits in the middle stage of key training that attacked him was only about 50% of that of the cultivators of the same level due to the secret method, they could not withstand the large number. Under their predation, Ling Pengyun could only passively defend with the help of the 3 water shields arranged around his body. Suffering from the fact that defense was not a solution, Ling Pengyun made a prompt decision and waved his hand to take out the 3 rocket talismans he had just bought, injected spiritual power, and turned them into 3-foot-long rockets, and simultaneously hide a middle stage of key training evil ghost. Ling Pengyun still knew the power of this medium-quality rocket talisman. It was impossible to kill a middle stage of key training evil ghost with just 1 rocket. Although the power of a rocket was not particularly strong, the power of 3 rockets combined was extremely strong. Under the bombardment, a middle stage of key training evil ghost was directly dispersed. Without a middle stage key training evil ghost to suppress him, Ling Pengyun felt less pressure. Seeing that the rocket talisman had done a good job, Ling Pengyun did not hold back and fired the only 2 rocket talismans in his hand, attacking the left one of the remaining 3 evil ghosts. Although the 2 rockets did not kill the evil ghost, they also dispersed a lot of yin qi in the evil ghost's body. Later, under the bombardment of several water spikes cast by Ling Pengyun in an instant, the evil ghost was also dispersed. In just 10 breaths, Ling Pengyun killed 2 middle stage key training evil ghosts, which surprised the demon cultivators dozens of feet away. Then, their expressions became extremely ugly. The 2 evil ghosts killed by Ling Pengyun were 2 evil ghosts in the early stage of key training. He spent a lot of time absorbing hundreds of mortal souls to train them. What's more, with the 2 evil ghosts killed, his wish to upgrade his evil ghost flag to a first-class upper-grade magic weapon, the 100 Ghosts flag, would have to be postponed indefinitely. Damn it. The demon cultivator took out a talisman from his storage bag with some heartache, waved his hand and threw it out, summoning 3 evil ghosts in the middle stage of key training. This talisman is called the 3 Ghosts Talisman, which contains 3 evil ghosts in the middle stage of key training. Because the materials for refining are the souls of 3 cultivators in the middle stage of key training, the demon cultivator only has 1. Although this talisman is inferior to the 10 ghost banners, it can be used at critical moments and has many effects. As soon as the 3 evil ghosts transformed by the 3 Ghosts talisman appeared, they pounced on Ling Pengyun. Seeing this dangerous situation, Ling Pengyun frowned. There were still 2 evil ghosts around him. If he added the 3 evil ghosts in the middle stage of key training transformed by the 3 Ghosts talisman, he would have to face 5 evil ghosts alone. At this time, he did not have the rocket talisman that had a strong killing power against evil ghosts. It seems that I can only use that fireblade talisman. Ling Pengyun stretched out his hand and quickly patted the storage bag, summoning a talisman containing a large amount of pure fire spiritual power. Although the fireblade talisman on his body was of the first-class upper grade, it was indeed the best of the best, and its power was comparable to the full-strength attack of a key training perfect cultivator. It was specially refined by Ling Yunfen, the 3rd elder of the Ling family, who was the great elder Ling Rudaxin in the early years, and was handed over to Ling Pengyun in the early years to save his life. As soon as the spiritual power was injected into the fireblade talisman, he was able to use it. However, the palm-sized spiritual talisman flashed with spiritual light, flashing a large piece of flame, and turned into a giant fireblade as long as 2 feet, directly cutting off the 5 evil ghosts in the middle stage of key training that came to attack. After this attack, the spiritual light of the fireblade was dim, and it still retained 30% of its power. Under the lock of Ling Pengyun's consciousness, the fireblade, with the remaining power, blasted towards the demon cultivator waving the magic banner in the distance. At the same time, he roared angrily. "Shoot out the flying needle that breaks the energy." Hearing this loud signal, Shenhu, who was struggling to resist 5 evil spirits in the middle stage of key training in a flying shuttle, was shocked when he saw Ling Pengyun suddenly use a powerful fireblade talisman. However, he immediately understood and waved his hand to shoot the flying needle that had been prepared in his hand at the demon cultivator, who was dozens of feet away. The demon cultivator saw the sudden change in the battle situation and his expression changed drastically. He no longer had the momentum just now and hurriedly used the round shield in his hand to block in front of him. The fireblade hit the round shield firmly, making a loud noise. Although the round shield blocked the fireblade, the remaining force transmitted by the round shield made the demon cultivator retreat several steps. Seeing this, Ling Pengyun's mind moved slightly and shouted secretly, "Thorns! Entangle!" Between Zumi, 3 vines suddenly sprang out from the ground around the demon cultivator and quickly tied up the demon cultivator's right hand, holding the round shield. These 3 vines were formed by the seeds that Ling Pengyun had transformed from his life spirit plant, the thorn vine. The seeds of these 3 vines were hidden by Ling Pengyun in the water spells that were thrown at the demon cultivator. These spells were blocked by the magic round shield, and the seeds naturally fell to the side of the demon cultivator. This is also another wonderful use of the thorn vines. The vines formed by the seeds of the thorn vines are extremely strong and several times stronger than the ordinary vine magic. It is precisely because of this that even the demon cultivator with strong cultivation base could not immediately break free from the 3 vines entangled in his arms in time. The magic shield tightly held in his hand wanted to resist the speed of the flying needles, so it was naturally a point slower, and therefore missed the best time to resist the flying needles. Shen Hu also seized this opportunity, and controlled the flying needle with his spiritual consciousness, directly piercing the demon cultivator's head. As soon as the demon cultivator died, the 5 evil spirits in the middle stage of key training that attacked Shen Hu immediately returned to the magic banner, and the red shuttle also fell to the ground. Ling Pengyun was slightly happy when he saw the demon cultivator dead and no longer had any breath, but he did not let down his guard. Although the demon cultivator was eliminated, there was still another enemy here. Chapter 47 Magical Weapon. With the idea of preemptive strike, Ling Pengyun's face turned fierce, and he swung out 3 water thorns in succession, hitting Shen Hu, who had just joined forces with him to kill the demon cultivator. Shen Hu had intended to kill him just now, and he had not forgotten it. If he had not used the fireblade talisman that Ling Ruda left for him to save his life and turn the tide of the battle, Shen Hu might have abandoned him and let him block the demon cultivator alone and escape by himself. Ling Pengyun never had a good impression of these casual cultivators. Now that the demon cultivator wanted to kill, it was naturally a life and death battle between Ling Pengyun and Shen Hu. Shen Hu had long been prepared for Ling Pengyun, and quickly raised the broken magic shield in his hand to block the 3 water arrows. Although the magic shield blocked the 3 water arrows, the countless cracks on the magic shield also became larger, and the spiritual charm on the magic shield also became dimmer. Shen Hu noticed this scene, his face gradually became gloomy, and he quickly swung the golden flying sword and hit Ling Pengyun, wanting to kill Ling Pengyun before the magic shield was broken by Ling Pengyun. But Ling Pengyun had 3 water shields around him, and the golden flying sword could not break them in a short time. On the contrary, under the bombardment of more than 10 water spikes from Ling Pengyun, the already broken magic shield in Shen Hu's hand was broken into pieces, without a trace of spirituality. Although Shen Hu also took out 3 water shield talismans to resist the torrent of magic spells from Ling Pengyun. But Ling Pengyun was not afraid of the spiritual talismans. He had as many as 6 water shield talismans on him, 5 of which were purchased in Yunwufeng Market not long ago, and the other one was given by Ling Ruguo in his early years. Relying on the advantage of the number of water shield talismans, coupled with a powerful attack that could instantly launch a water thorn, and the thorn vine seeds hidden in the spell, under the influence of Yin Ren. Not long after, Shen Hu was entangled by thorny vines, and his head was smashed by a water thorn thrown by Ling Pengyun. He lost his life and died at the hands of Ling Pengyun. Ling Pengyun looked at Shen Hu's bloody head, and his brows only frowned slightly, without any discomfort. As early as when he was young, he was in the family clan school, and was forced by the family elders to watch a lot of bloody scenes recorded on the video disc. Not to mention the head being smashed, even the slow dissection of the body, Ling Pengyun has seen it. This can be regarded as a way for the family elders to cultivate the psychological quality of the younger generation in the clan in advance. It's what you deserve. Ling Pengyun cursed inwardly, walked quickly in front of Shen Hu's body, fumbled on Shenhu's body, found 2 storage bags, and picked up the golden sword that fell on the ground. The body of the demon cultivator was also touched by Ling Pengyun. Whether it was the magic weapon or the storage bag, he put them all in his arms. Even the long needle that pierced through the demon cultivator's brain was found by Ling Pengyun and put into the storage bag. In order to destroy the traces, Ling Pengyun summoned 2 flames to burn Shenhu and the demon cultivator's bodies into ashes, and then used his spiritual power to create a gust of wind to blow away the 2 ashes. Only then did he use the light body technique and deliberately took a long detour to leave this place and return to Qingshi Mountain. Ling Pengyun had not walked for half an hour when a middle-aged man riding a rock appeared in the sky above the place where he, Shenhu and the demon cultivator had just fought. This middle-aged man was the Wen Xianren of the Wen family, a late-stage key training expert stationed in Yunwu Market. He lowered his head, and his spiritual sense swept over the place where the battle had taken place. He felt that there were still 2 spiritual energies and 1 demonic energy left here, and his brows frowned slightly. Nianking sent a message saying that a demon cultivator attacked the village where he was stationed. It seems that the remaining demonic energy here was left by the demon cultivator. But Nianking did not die here. There is no trace of Nianking in the 2 remaining spiritual energies. I think there was an unlucky person who also encountered the demon cultivator. When Xianren's expression became gloomy. Following the guidance of the message talisman in his hand, he found the body of Wen Nianking. Looking at the body, Wen Xianren was very sad. Wen Nianking was the grandson of his fellow brother and also his grandson. He watched him grow up since he was a child, but now he died tragically outside and the murderer has not been caught. Holding Wen Nianking's body, Wen Xianren's eyes were full of hatred and he gritted his teeth. Nianking, I will definitely find the demon cultivator and avenge you. After saying this, he moved forward again and rushed to the village where Wen Nianking was stationed. As soon as he arrived at the village, Wen Xianren, riding on a rock and holding Wen Nianking's body, saw hell on earth. The ground of the whole village was covered with skin and bones, at least more than 2,000, and the smell of blood filled the surroundings. The surroundings were dead silent, and filled with the breath of death. When Xianren looked at the miserable situation in the village in front of him, his face full of anger, and he said to himself with a cruel face, "Destroy my Wen family cultivators, and destroy my 2,000 mortals. Although my Yunwu is declining, I didn't expect that even the demon cultivators dared to stand on my Wen family's territory and shit. Do you really think that my Yunwu Wen family is easy to bully? Wait for me, dare to destroy my Wen family members, don't expect to have a good end." In the middle of the night, Ling Pengyun rushed hundreds of miles and finally rushed back to Qingshi Mountain. Along the way, Ling Pengyun was nervous, fearing that he would encounter something unexpected and have another battle. This time back to Qingshi Mountain, he felt much more at ease. After calming down for a while, Ling Pengyun took out 4 storage bags from his bulging arms, and from his own storage bag on his waist, he summoned Shenhu's golden sword, silver long needle, and the magic shield, magic banner, and red long shuttle of the magic cultivator and placed them on the ground. The 4 storage bags were found from Shenhu and the corpse of the magic cultivator, and each of them had 2. These were all the gains Ling Pengyun had obtained from the battle at noon. Because the 4 storage bags still had the spiritual imprint of the original owner, it was difficult to open them in a short time. Only by constantly spending time in the future and using one's own spiritual consciousness to wash away the spiritual imprint in the 4 storage bags, could the contents be taken out. Therefore, Ling Pengyun put them aside first and looked at the 2 magic tools and 3 magic tools. Shenhu's golden longsword and broken long needle are both of good quality. The golden small sword can be kept as a backup, and the broken long needle can be sacrificed first to increase my combat power. These 3 magic weapons are a bit difficult to deal with. They can't be used, so they can only be destroyed. The magic weapon is made of the blood and soul of the human race. It contains a large amount of magic power. If it is used rashly, it will definitely affect the mind and become a bloodthirsty monster. After making up his mind, Ling Pengyun urged the little spiritual power left in his body to summon 2 extremely high-temperature flames, burning on the magic banner, long shuttle and magic shield on the ground. These 3 magic weapons may be of higher quality. Ling Pengyun was enough to burn them with high-temperature flames for nearly an hour before destroying them into scrap metal. After doing this, Ling Pengyun waved his hand to put the golden longsword into the storage bag, took out a first-level lower-grade spiritual pear purchased at the Yunwu market this time, and ate it. After eating the entire pear and throwing away the core, Ling Pengyun immediately closed his eyes and practiced his skills to refine the pure spiritual power contained in the pear flesh in his stomach, sending it into his dantian, which was about to dry up, to replenish the spiritual power in his dantian. Chapter 48, Pulling Out the Demonic Trouble. By the time his spiritual power recovered, it was the early morning of the next day. He opened his eyes, absorbed the power of the early sun for a while, and hurried to the top of the mountain. Seeing that the 6 acres of spiritual fields on the top of the mountain were not in any serious trouble because of the lack of water yesterday, he was relieved. He applied spiritual rain to the 6 acres of spiritual fields one by one, pulled out the weeds in the 6 acres of spiritual fields, and burned them. Then he returned to the cave halfway up the mountain and returned to his busy life again. Comprehending the sword formation, comprehending Lingxiao's ripening technique, comprehending spells, refining the green bamboo sword and other trivial matters are still waiting for him. As for the time to use the spiritual consciousness to wash the 4 storage bags, it was squeezed out from the night practice time. Because Shenhu and the demon cultivator were both dead, the spiritual consciousness imprints in the 4 storage bags were like floating without roots, without follow-up power. Under the flushing of Ling Pengyun's spiritual consciousness for half a month, the 4 storage bags were finally opened. Shenhu was a poor fellow. One of his 2 storage bags was filled with clothes and sundries. The other storage bag only contained 16 spirit stones, 3 key training pills, 1 yellow bud pill, a bottle of key recovering powder, and the first 6 levels of the mainland version of the golden spirit art. Apart from these, there was nothing else. The 2 storage bags of the demon cultivator had a higher gold content, but they were all magic pills, soul collecting bottles for souls, and other things for demon cultivators, with only 35 spirit stones. Shenhu and the demon cultivator together only had 51 spirit stones. Fortunately, Shenhu's golden flying sword and long needle for breaking the ore were good, otherwise we would have lost a lot this time. Ling Pengyun looked at all the things he had summoned from the 4 storage bags, frowned, and said to himself. In the battle half a month ago, he had consumed 7 water shield talismans, 5 rocket talismans, and 1 superior fireblade talisman. 7 water shield talismans were worth 35 spirit stones, and 5 water arrow talismans were worth 15 spirit stones. The superior fireblade talisman was at least twice as powerful as the ordinary rocket talisman on the market, and could be sold at a high price of at least 30 spiritual stones. Although Ling Pengyun did not buy it, it would be a loss if he used it. The consumption of these 3 kinds of spiritual talismans combined, that battle cost a total of 80 spiritual stones worth of spiritual talismans. Shenhu's golden flying sword was a first-class medium-grade magic weapon. Although it was second-hand, it was worth at least 70 or 80 spiritual stones. The effect of the broken gang long needle was peculiar, and it was probably worth 100 to 90 spiritual stones. In addition to the 61 spiritual stones and several bottles of elixirs obtained, it was worth at least 250 or 60 spiritual stones. This kind of harvest was not in vain for Ling Pengyun's risking his life. As for Shenhu's golden spirit art, it was a mainland product, and it could not be sold unless he was used to deceive people who had just entered the immortal path. Ling Pengyun burned all the magic pills and other spiritual objects in the magic cultivator's storage bag. The containers for holding souls were left behind. Souls are not only possessed by humans, but also by monsters. Righteous cultivators also need to use this soul-holding bottle to hold the souls of monsters. Since the matter of the 4 storage bags has been resolved, Ling Pengyun can also devote the rest of his time to refining the long needle. During the half-month when Ling Pengyun used his spiritual sense to flush the spiritual sense imprints in the 4 storage bags, a demon-killing campaign was launched in Pengyun County where the Yunwuan clan was located. From the secular villages to the barren land in Pengyun County, more than 20 Wen clan members in Pengyun County walked through them and found more than 20 mid- and late-stage key training magic cultivators hiding in the secular villages, towns, and barren mountains and ridges in Pengyun County. If the 20 or so Wen clan members who were looking for the demon cultivators were not led by Wen clan leader Wen Xianian, a strong foundation building expert, there would have been a huge loss of personnel. Although the 20 or so demon cultivators were killed, the number of demon cultivators shocked the Wen clan members. They had never thought that there were so many powerful demon cultivators hiding in their territory. If it weren't for a demon cultivator who came out to cause trouble this time, they would not even know anything about it. This strange phenomenon also made the Wen clan members suspicious. Under the interrogation of the Wen clan's high-level leaders and a demon cultivator who had completed key training and was captured alive, they asked a piece of news that was very unfriendly to the Wen clan. Wen Clan Mountain, the top of Yunwu Mountain, in the Wen clan meeting hall. The 3 elders and clan leaders of the Wen clan in the clan were all there. Wen Xiannian, the Wen clan leader, who was sitting at the main seat of the long table in the meeting hall, had a gloomy face. After a few breaths, he spoke carefully. Everyone, because of Nian Qing's incident, we knew in advance that the old demon Li, who had been causing chaos in Yunshu County, was going to attack our Wen family and planned to sacrifice 53 members of our Wen family and 60,000 mortals to refine magic weapons. This is also a blessing. The old demon Li was taught by the Ghost Shadow sect, one of the 5 major Yin-Yang sects of the magic path. His methods are endless and his cultivation is as high as the late stage of foundation building. There are also many magic cultivators who have joined his sect. Whether it is the old demon Li's own strength or the magic cultivators under his sect, they are not something that our Wen family can resist. In the current situation, there is only one way out for our Wen family, to ask for help. Indeed, this is the only way left. Now we can only see whether the other 4 major families in Huaishu County will help us this time. Wen Ruofei, the elder of the Wen family, sighed helplessly. Wen Xiannian was decisive and snorted angrily. If they don't help, their family will be destroyed next. When the demon Li uses the souls of my Wen family's cultivators and tens of thousands of ordinary people to refine the magic weapon, its strength will be greatly increased. How can those families resist the demon Li at that time? If it weren't for my Yunwu Wen family, which is the weakest family in Huaishu County, how could we be bullied? The other 4 major foundation building families in Huaishu bully my Wen family, but now even the demon cultivators bully my Wen family. Sooner or later, I will make you pay the price. Half a month later, Yunwu Wen family led a vigorous war to destroy demons. This war of annihilation was for concealment, so as to achieve the effect of a surprise attack. The 5 major foundation building families in Huaishu County each sent out a foundation building strongman, a total of 5 foundation building cultivators. According to the guidance of the key cultivating demon cultivator captured by Wen family, they found the border of Huaishu County, Li Laomo and his hundreds of demon cultivators hiding in a desolate mountain range. The battle between the 2 sides started quickly. Even though 3 early foundation building masters, 1 mid foundation building master, and 1 late foundation building master from the 5 major families attacked the old demon Li with all kinds of tricks, they still could not kill him. They only injured him severely and made him flee. However, nearly 90% of the hundreds of key training demon cultivators under the command of the old demon Li were killed by the 5 foundation building masters who were free to attack. This was also a blessing. The old demon Li's wings were cut off and he was seriously injured. For at least a few decades, he would not be able to attack the 5 newly established foundation building families in Huaishu County, which were weaker in strength and foundation. This situation was also what the 5 major families, who had just established foundation building families and whose foundations were still unstable, wanted to see. Horizontal ellipsis. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 49 Daily Life. Being busy, it is often difficult to notice the passage of time. Unconsciously, it has come to mid-December. This winter, like last year, snow fell all over the sky, covering the earth with a layer of silver frost. In the vast snow, a snow-white crane carried a white-haired old man, and a strong wind was propped up around its body, blocking the snow and cold wind. It flew over countless high mountains and finally landed on the top of Qingshi Mountain. 9 great-grandfather Ling Pengyun, who had long heard the crane's cry and waited here, saw the old man riding the crane jump off the crane and bowed. This old man is Ling Rufan, who succeeded Ling Ruguo. He is the 9th in the Ru generation and is over 100 years old. He is 104 years old and has a cultivation level of the 7th level of key training. Although his lifespan is not much and his cultivation is gradually fading, it is not serious, otherwise the family would not send this family elder out of the clan mountain to do things. As early as half a year ago, This person took over Ling Ruguo's task and delivered offerings to the tribesmen stationed in the low-level spiritual mountains in the territory. Ling Rufin asked kindly, "Pengyun, is the spiritual rice harvest this year good?" Fortunately, it is expected that the 2 acres of yellow jade spiritual rice will have a harvest of 1,000 kilograms. Ling Pengyun said happily. The 2 acres of yellow jade spiritual rice managed by him, with the help of the 2 spiritual planting secrets he knew, Yunayashu and Lingxiao ripening shu, and the earthworms that raised the spiritual soil to see and other qualifications, the 2 acres of spiritual rice were ripe as early as mid-October this year. At that time, Ling Pengyun had already calculated the approximate harvest of the 2 acres of spiritual rice based on the fact that each ear of wheat on the 2 acres of spiritual rice had as many as 45 spiritual grains. Ling Rufin was shocked when he heard this, and turned his head to look at the 2 acres of yellow jade spiritual rice in the 6 acres of spiritual fields on the other side of the mountain top. When he saw that the rice stalks of the 2 acres of yellow jade spiritual rice were slightly bent due to the heavy spiritual grains on the ears, he immediately believed what Ling Pengyun said. Ling Rufin also noticed that the spiritual grains on the ears of the 2 acres of yellow jade spiritual rice were 10% to 20% richer than ordinary spiritual grains. The same was true for the other 4 acres of key training grass and sword star grass. He secretly deduced that the spiritual plants in the 6 acres of spiritual fields might have matured 1 or 2 months ago. There is only one possibility for the ability of spiritual plants to mature like this. Ling Rufin looked slightly surprised and asked, "Pengyun, are you close to the first level middle grade realm in spiritual plants?" Ling Pengyun was slightly stunned, and when he saw Ling Rufin looking at the 2 acres of yellow jade spiritual rice, he immediately understood. He did not hide it, but he did not elaborate. "It's still a little short, but it's almost there." Ling Rufin guessed secretly. "Pengyun will be 18 in mid-February next year. I'm afraid that before he's 20, he'll be able to become a rare first-class, middle-grade spiritual plant husband." Thinking of this, he smiled and praised. "As expected of you, the successor chosen by the 11th brother. The family's spiritual plant business will have successors." Ling Pengyun smiled slightly, and did not say much, which was regarded as tacit agreement. The 2 people of the same age as him who entered the spiritual plant sect were just following the first-level middle-grade spiritual plant masters in the family to learn. As early as when he was young, because of his super spiritual plant talent, after entering the spiritual plant sect, he was the only one who followed Ling Ruda, the great elder of the family and a first-level upper-grade spiritual plant master, to learn the knowledge of the spiritual plant sect. In fact, the fact that he was Ling Ruda's successor had long been circulated in the clan. Although Ling Rufin still had many years to live, he was over 100 years old after all, and half of his foot was in the coffin. It was possible that in this last time, he saw that the spiritual plant sect, which was the foundation of the clan, had successors, and he was also very happy in his heart. However, he also saw that Ling Pengyun did not intend to say more about this matter, so he changed the subject. He took out 2 bulging storage bags from his arms, summoned a large number of spiritual objects on the ground from one storage bag, and handed the other storage bag to Ling Pengyun. "Pengyun, this is your salary for the next 6 months, which includes 60 spirit stones, 120 kilograms of yellow jade spirit rice, seeds for the 6 mu of spirit field on the top of Qingshi Mountain in the next year, and compensation from the family for the family affairs that prevented you from returning to the family during the new year, and 3 first-grade middle-quality green silk spirit peaches." These 100 spirit stones and 6 green silk spirit peaches were sent back to the family by your parents in Yunshu County and asked us to pass them on to you. As for what is in this storage bag, I don't know. My 11th brother has placed a spiritual imprint on it, and he specifically instructed that it can only be passed on to you. The 11th brother he mentioned is the great elder Ling Ruda. Ling Pengyun took the storage bag handed over by Ling Rufin and was confused at first, but he quickly guessed what was in the storage bag. Only the second batch of 100 green bamboo sword refining materials worth 1,000 spirit stones that Ling Yunhong had promised earlier would be hidden like this. "Thank you, great-grandfather." Ling Pengyun put the storage bag in his arms, picked up the spiritual objects on the ground, and bowed. "It's a small matter. This is my duty. Let's quickly harvest the spiritual plants here. It's still early today. After harvesting the spiritual plants in your mountain, I should be able to hurry up and go to the Lingshan where Peng Cheng is stationed. Then, I can also stay there for one night." Ling Rufin said with a bit of longing in his expression. Ling Pengyun was a contemporary of Ling Pengyun. He was also one of the 5 people who were sent to the territory by the family before the age of 18 to guard Lingxiao. He was the 9th in the Peng generation, a cultivator with 3 spiritual roots. He was the great-grandson of Ling Rufin and the only descendant of this old man in the family who had spiritual roots. This also made Ling Rufin cherish him very much. If there were any spiritual objects, he would basically leave them to Ling Pengyun. Ling Pengyun was also very competitive. He reached the bottleneck of the 3rd level of Qi training at a young age. There was a great probability that he would break through to the 9th level of Qi training in this life, or even complete Qi training. Ling Pengyun nodded knowingly, and entered the 6-acre spiritual field with Ling Rufin to harvest mature spiritual plants in the field. Although it was cumbersome to cut the spiritual rice, pull out the Qi training grass and the sword star grass, it was necessary to carefully move the spiritual soil attached to the roots of these spiritual plants into the spiritual field to avoid bringing out the spiritual soil. But Ling Pengyun and Ling Rufin were both experienced people. In just half a day, at noon, they had cut and pulled out all the spiritual plants in the 6 mu of spiritual fields. The 2 of them performed the vibration technique together to remove the grain skin of the yellow jade spiritual rice. Ling Rufin performed a weight measurement technique to count the weight of the spiritual rice harvested from the 2 mu of yellow jade spiritual rice. They were 1,053 caddies and 1,105 caddies respectively. Ling Pengyun got 10%, a total of 215 caddies of yellow jade spiritual rice. Like last year, Ling Pengyun still sold the spiritual rice to the family, and sold it for a total of 43 spiritual stones. This harvest also made Ling Pengyun very happy. The spiritual stones earned by oneself are the most fragrant. And with this year's offerings, the spiritual stones given by his parents, and the spiritual stones sold from the spiritual rice, his storage bag was replenished again, with a total of 293 spiritual stones. With this amount of spiritual stones, I don't need to raise spiritual fruits for cultivation next year. I should also change my black iron shield. Ling Pengyun thought to himself. The black iron shield is only a 1st-grade low-grade defensive magic weapon. Although this magic shield is superior and comparable to a 1st-grade medium-grade defensive magic weapon, with the spiritual stones, I naturally have to buy a better one to increase my combat power. During the time when Ling Pengyun was distracted, Ling Rufin told Ling Pengyun to pay more attention to safety outside, and then hurriedly rode the fairy crane to fly away from the Qingshi Mountain and flew to the place where his precious great-grandson was stationed. Chapter 50, 1 acre of Grade B Spiritual Field. After Ling Pengyun saw Ling Rufin off, he walked to the 6-acre spiritual field. His spiritual sense swept through the spiritual soil in the 6-acre spiritual field, and carefully detected the spiritual energy contained in the spiritual soil. He found that 1 acre of spiritual soil planted with yellow jade spiritual rice contained a stronger spiritual energy than the other 5 acres of spiritual soil, reaching the B-grade spiritual soil. The improvement in the quality of the spiritual soil in this spiritual field was a change that Ling Rufin and Ling Pengyun had discovered when they cut the yellow jade spiritual rice. Now Ling Pengyun used his spiritual sense to explore, also for verification. Ling Pengyun's expression moved slightly, and he muttered to himself. At the beginning of July this year, the 3 earthworms just raised the quality of the 6-acre spiritual field here to the C grade. According to the cultivation level of the 3 earthworms, it would take at least until January next year to raise this acre of C-grade spiritual soil to the B-grade quality again. I didn't expect that they would complete this task in just over a month and a half. This abnormality also made Ling Pengyun's heart move. There must be a ground-covering earthworm in the innate realm, about to break through to the realm of Qi training, or half a step into the realm of Qi training. Otherwise the speed at which the 3 ground-covering earthworms improve the quality of the spiritual soil cannot be so fast. Ling Pengyun used the master recognition restriction connection between him and the 3 ground-covering earthworms to summon them from the 1-acre spiritual field soil where the yellow jade spiritual rice was planted. The 3 ground-covering earthworms appeared in Ling Pengyun's sight at the same time. He noticed at a glance that the body of one of the ground-covering earthworms was a circle larger than the other 2, and its aura was also slightly stronger. His spiritual sense carefully scanned its body and found that its aura strength was far greater than the other 2 ground-covering earthworms beside it. Based on the aura of this slightly larger ground-covering earthworm, I'm afraid it will be able to enter the realm of Qi training within 3 months. No wonder, The speed at which these 3 ground-covering earthworms improve the quality of the spiritual soil is much faster. Ling Pengyun said happily. As the master, Ling Pengyun cannot immediately detect a small increase in the spirit beast's strength. He will only feel it when it advances to a higher realm and its strength increases significantly. When this earthworm that has half a foot in the key training realm is officially promoted to the key training realm, I will have a few more advantages in spiritual planting than ordinary spiritual planting husbands. And the speed at which they improve the quality of the spiritual soil in the 6 acres of spiritual fields in Qingshi Mountain can also be accelerated. In the remaining 3 years of my stay in Qingshi Mountain in the future, they will definitely be able to improve the quality of the remaining 5 acres of spiritual soil to Class B quality, and even improve 1 or 2 acres of spiritual fields to Class A qualifications. The quality of the spiritual soil in these 6 acres of spiritual fields has been improved to this extent, and it is also worthy of the 3 earthworms given to me by the family. And during this period, relying on the quality of the spiritual soil in the 2 acres of spiritual fields planted with yellow jade spiritual rice, the annual harvest of yellow jade spiritual rice should be able to maintain at 1,000 kilograms, and will gradually increase. At that time, I can also get a few more kilograms of spiritual rice. Ling Pengyun smiled and calculated. The quality of spiritual soil is divided into 4 grades A, B, C, and D, with A being the best quality and D being the worst. As early as half a year ago, the 3 earthworms had upgraded the quality of the D-grade spiritual soil in the 6 mu of first-grade lower-grade spiritual fields to C-grade, which took a total of 1.5 years, and the quality of 1 mu of spiritual soil was upgraded every 3 months. The C-grade spiritual soil can increase the growth rate of spiritual plants by 10%, and can also make spiritual plants such as spiritual rice with fluctuating yields more harvests. After the quality of the spiritual soil in the 6 mu of first-grade lower-grade spiritual fields on the top of Qingshi Mountain was upgraded to C-grade, the 3 earthworms wanted to continue to swallow the spiritual soil in their stomachs and use special methods to upgrade the quality of the spiritual soil to D-grade, which took more than double the time. It takes 3 earthworms half a year to upgrade 1 mu of C-grade spiritual soil to B-grade. And this B-grade spiritual soil can increase the growth rate of spiritual plants of the same level by 20%. The A-grade spiritual soil can increase the growth rate of spiritual plants of the same level by 30%. After coming to his senses, Ling Pengyun called the 3 earthworms back to the spiritual soil, and let them continue to work hard to swallow the spiritual soil in the spiritual field into their stomachs, and use their special abilities to improve the quality of the spiritual soil. Afterwards, Ling Pengyun, as in previous years, seized the time, used the spiritual hoe to plow, dug holes to plant spiritual seeds, and applied spiritual rain to moisten the seeds and make them germinate quickly. Let the spiritual plants planted in the 6 acres of spiritual fields mature quickly, and improve their own medicinal effects or harvests. After these farm work was done, it was already dark. Ling Pengyun sat cross-legged on the top of the mountain to absorb the power of the moonlight for a while, and then returned to the cave halfway up the mountain. Sitting cross-legged on the futon, Ling Pengyun took out the storage bag that Ling Rufan had just given him from his arms, and invaded it with his spiritual consciousness to wash away the spiritual consciousness restrictions in it. This restriction was not strong, and Ling Pengyun just used his spiritual consciousness to gently rush it, and then destroyed the restriction. Without the restriction, Ling Pengyun injected spiritual power into it and summoned all the spiritual objects in it. A small pile of spiritual stones, 104-foot-long green spiritual bamboos, 101 jin-weight green-black iron, and a piece of white paper appeared on the ground. These 100 parts of materials for refining the green bamboo sword are normal. The third ancestor also told me in advance, but what's the matter with this pile of 400 spiritual stones? Ling Pengyun was shocked when he saw a large number of spiritual stones being summoned out of the storage bag in his hand. He quickly used his spiritual sense to scan the pile of spiritual stones and found out the exact number of spiritual stones. He glanced and saw that a piece of white paper was summoned out of the storage bag with the spiritual stones. There were many words written on the white paper. He was immediately puzzled. He waved his hand to perform the object control technique, took the white words in his hand, and read them carefully. After seeing this, Ling Pengyun's confusion was immediately resolved. This letter was written by the great elder Lingruta. The letter clearly stated that the 400 spiritual stones were the annual share of the Blackwater iron vein at the bottom of Qingshi Lake. As for why there is such a large share, it is also because the mining of the veins is assisted by the mining puppets borrowed by Balingman. For these, the letter is written clearly, and it does not hide anything from Ling Pengyun. If it is really according to what the 11th great-grandfather wrote in this letter, the 10 mining puppets borrowed by Balingman to the family are enough to match the mining speed of 30 monks of the same level. This effect is too strong. The mining puppets have such effects. I wonder how powerful the rumored combat puppets are. I have to take some time to go to the vein to see what the mining puppets look like, so that I can see the world. Ling Pengyun said to himself curiously. Since taking Ling Ru to the vein to guard it, Ling Pengyun has been busy with trivial matters such as refining instruments and practicing, so he has not gone to the vein to take a look. Of course, the main reason is that Ling Pengyun is unwilling. After all, what is there to see in mining? And such curiosity about puppets is also due to his own entry into the path of refining instruments. Puppet is also a branch of magic weapon, and is made by weapon refiners. It is also a rare foreign object in the world of immortal cultivation that can be completely controlled by the master, and will never rebel against the master. As long as the master's consciousness is withdrawn from the puppet will be soulless and become scrap metal. This also makes many cultivators extremely popular for such loyal assistants who can enhance their strength. Ling Pengyun is no exception. It's just that the method of refining puppets is controlled by major forces. Otherwise, if I mastered the method of refining puppets, my strength would be greatly improved. Ling Pengyun sighed helplessly. After thinking about it, he threw away his distracting thoughts and looked at the 400 spirit stones with a smile on his face. It has been said in the letter that the family will give me the share of the Zhuanshu iron ore vein that belongs to me within 10 years, which is about 4,000 spirit stones. This is a good thing for me. In this way, I don't have to worry about buying the spirit stones needed for the second-class foundation building spiritual objects with the family. The dividends from this vein are enough for me to buy the second-class foundation building spiritual objects without worries. And now, the only problem in front of me is cultivation. I now have two kinds of arts. Although the spiritual fruit helps me to improve my cultivation speed, it is still a bit risky whether I can break through to the perfection of key training before I turn 60. Giving up the spiritual plant is naturally impossible. Ling Pengyun also hopes that the spiritual plant of his life spirit plant will feed back. He himself also likes this spiritual plant. Moreover, he is not only the family's refining seedling, but also the key spiritual plant seedling. Both kinds of arts cannot be given up, so Ling Pengyun can only focus on cultivation resources. Now I don't need to save up spirit stones and worry about purchasing inferior spiritual objects for foundation building. In the future, the spirit stones earned from planting spirit plants and refining equipment can be used to buy resources for cultivation. Since the first-grade lower and middle-grade spirit fruits can bring me considerable help, the first-grade upper-grade spirit fruits with pure spiritual power in the flesh will surely bring me greater help. I can even save up spirit stones to purchase the second-grade lower-grade marrow cleansing pills, which are expensive but can change the aptitude of a cultivator to a small extent, and enhance my own aptitude for cultivation. In the last 3 years of garrisoning in Qingshi Mountain, it will be difficult for me to leave Qingshi Mountain for a long time and go to the distant market town. As for purchasing first-grade upper-grade spirit fruits, perhaps I can find an opportunity to ask my 9th great-grandfather, who sends offerings every 6 months, to help me buy them from the family's General Affairs Hall. There are many good things in the General Affairs Hall in Lingxiao Mountain. When the Ling family members want to buy spiritual objects, they will go to the General Affairs Hall first. After making plans for the future, Ling Pengyun waved his hand and put all the 400 spiritual stones on the ground into the storage bag on his waist, and his eyes returned to the 100 pieces of refining materials on the ground. With the help of these 100 pieces of refining materials, I will definitely be able to increase the success rate of refining the green bamboo sword to 30%, or even higher. Ling Pengyun said with a firm and confident look. In recent months, Ling Pengyun has raised the success rate of refining the green bamboo sword from 1 in 32 to 10% with the help of the 100 pieces of green bamboo sword refining materials given by Ling Yunhong. In other words, every time he refines the green bamboo sword 10 times, he will be able to refine a green bamboo sword, and the quality of the refined green bamboo sword has also improved a lot, enough to be called medium quality, the same quality as the green bamboo sword on the market, and can be sold for at least 30 spiritual stones per sword. The rapid increase in the success rate of refining has also made Ling Pengyun himself full of longing for refining. Of course, he has not forgotten the investment of his family in him. If the family had not been so generous as before and used the 100 pieces of refining materials worth 1,000 spiritual stones, it would have been difficult for him to increase the success rate of refining the green bamboo sword from 0 to 10%. Because he had longed to increase the success rate of refining the green bamboo sword, Ling Pengyun put away the 99 pieces of refining materials, leaving only one piece of refining material in front of him. After closing his eyes and meditating for a moment, he immediately took out a black flame refining furnace and the firewood and began to refine the green bamboo sword. Perhaps it was luck that although he had not refined the weapon for several days, he still succeeded this time. 30 spiritual stones are in hand. Ling Pengyun looked at the green bamboo sword in his hand, which was just taken out of the refining furnace, with residual heat and flashing spiritual light, and said with a smile, "With the refining materials currently given by the family, the magic weapon refined is unique to Ling Pengyun, which can be regarded as a little sweetness given by the family." Ling Pengyun was worried that it was already dark, and if he continued to refine the weapon, it would shorten his practice time, so he had to stop refining the weapon and put the newly refined green bamboo sword, the refining furnace, and several half-burned firewoods into the storage bag. He took a spiritual orange, closed his eyes, and practiced the exercises to refine the pure spiritual power contained in the pulp and improve his cultivation. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.